road tripping on a bogus journey with your best friend until the end of the world, defending your life against Terminators, New Jack City slickers, conspiracy theories and secrets of the ooze, Keanu Reeves in his element as a surfer, Keanu Reeves perhaps not in his element doing Shakespeare, a prince of tides, a Fisher King, a naked lunch of fried green tomatoes at the delicatessen, falling in love with a beast, being scared stupid, backdrafts, baby steps, dogfights, and slackers. So sit back and enjoy some fava beans with a nice Chianti, because we're turning the clock back to a time when Paris was burning. So look into my eyes and you will see what 1991 means to me. I am your host, Andrew, and I welcome you back to the Revisionist Almanac, the show that gets into the time machine, takes a deep dive into past Academy Awards ceremonies, and determines what the voters got right, and more importantly, what they got wrong. Now, this is the 9th episode of the season, and I have two people who are making their first appearance on the show. Okay, up first, when she's not traveling the globe from adventure to adventure, or ballet dancing around the Atlanta area, she's probably watching a movie. She used to host a movie podcast with one of her best friends before pivoting and creating solo content over at Liz in a Movie. It is my privilege to welcome a movie friend, and that is Liz Arnold. Hello, Liz.
Hi! What a great introduction. Thank you.
It's so nice to have you back on a podcast mic. I feel like you don't do it as often as you used to, and I miss it for sure.
I miss it too.
And this is the second month in a row where someone who's both a friend of mine and a friend of my wife's is on the show. And I'm hoping that unlike last month and Britt, who was a little bit mean to me, I'm hoping you'll be a little bit nicer, because I think my wife put a bug in Britt's ears to take some shots at me. And so we'll see if you take any shots at me along the way.
I love that. I can't say I won't, but I'll do my best not to.
I had to ask Alicia. I said, you haven't told Liz to be mean to me per se. She's like, no, I don't think so. All right. And joining Liz and myself is someone that might have just gone and set a record for the most movies anyone has ever watched for a single episode of Almanac Prep. The man is an encyclopedia on The Simpsons, especially the first 10 seasons. He's a frequent podcast guest on a number of my favorite shows. He and I have both featured as writers on the Movie Friends website, and he's the resident Rev Almanac tennis pro on staff. Say hello to Scott Cole. Hey, Scott.
Thanks, man. That's awesome. I was thinking, I was like, I haven't really hosted any shows. I just kind of like talk crap on Twitter. So I didn't know what you were going to say about me for intro. But yeah, I appreciate it. You hit the highlights, I'd say. For sure.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And with Scott and I have been doing, we've been in like a Discord group with a bunch of like various podcasters and movie people for a couple of months now. And we've been tiptoeing around 1991 movie opinions as all of these other people have been weighing in. And so it's nice to finally have the opportunity to say all the things I've been hiding really quietly for the last couple of months, Scott. And I know you've been doing the same.
Yeah, they'll like just every once in a while be like, what about Nick Nolte? And you're just like, I can't talk about it. I just can't talk about it.
So many conversations about Robin Hood have happened around us, and we've just kept our mouths shut.
Yep.
But it's time. We are here. We can unpack it all. We got a lot of stuff to get into, so we will not waste any of anyone's time. So as a reminder, this show looks back on past Academy Awards ceremonies with the luxury of hindsight to determine what should have won Oscars for Best Picture, Best Director, and the 4 acting categories. Now, before we get into things, I hope you'll take time to rate and review the channel on whatever platform you're listening on, as well as finding and following the show on every social media platform using the handle Rev Almanac. Okay, so we are here tonight to talk about 1991. And for those who are not familiar with the year, the Best Picture winner was Jonathan Demme's The Silence of the Lambs. Now, this is the third and final film that took the Big Five at the Oscars, those being picture, director, actor, actress, and screenplay. Now, I have covered the other 2 Big Five winning films already this season. The first one was It Happened One Night, which retained every single Oscar that we talk about for 1934. And I just came off talking about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest a couple of months ago on the show, which did pretty well, but didn't necessarily retain everything. Okay. Now, Scott, Liz, you're both new to Almanac Prep, so this is your first experience with it. I got a couple of questions off the bat. How was prep for you? Is there anything that you drew from 1991, and do you have any advice for a future guest who might be making their first appearance? Scott, I'm going to go over to you first. Tackle any of those questions in any order you want to.
Okay, I like a challenge, and you gave me a lot of time, so I was like, I can. And actually, what I initially thought was I've probably seen most of these movies. I thought that. What I found out though was that I was too young at the time to have seen a lot of these movies, especially the R-rated movies. And I really came into like movie fandom in like 93, 94. That was when I started really getting the bug. So like there were a lot of 91 movies I hadn't seen. And I just really, anytime I wanted to watch a movie, I'd be like, okay, well, I just had a list and I would just knock them off. And actually, I got my parents weirdly into it. When I would go visit them, they'd be like, do you want to watch one of those 91 movies? I'd be like, yeah. So that was fun. I will say for advice, I wasted a lot of time early on not great movies that I just was curious to see. I like bad 90s thrillers. 91 had a lot of them. I spent a lot of time, and there was a period when I only had about 3 months left and I was still watching Deceived with Goldie Hawn, and I was like, I have to stop. I have to get disciplined here. So yeah, maybe it would have been helpful for me if I hadn't watched as many, but it worked out in the end.
It's been fascinating, especially to follow you on Twitter, where you will often post what you're watching at the moment. And I was like, you were going off on different paths that I had not traversed those paths for prep. And I was like, Scott's in a whole different lane right now than where I was going, because like you said, you were going down these weird, like kind of mid-tier thrillers from the 90s,
Yeah.
which we don't get a whole lot of anymore. So it is kind of refreshing to go back and see some of those movies again.
That's why I think I did it, because I was like, I miss these, and they used to be every weekend you'd get one. So it was a nice nostalgia trip there. But
so how many movies did you finish with in total? Because I think you might have the record now.
I think it was like 80.
Okay.
I think it was 80. But I didn't go back. There were some movies that I'd seen enough in my life that I didn't need to rewatch What About Bob. That movie's been in my life forever. Because of my older sister, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead is a movie I know by heart. So yeah, but 80 movies I watched, like, yeah, in the time frame you gave me, I think, yeah.
All right. The bar has been set. Future guests of the show, good luck topping 80. Okay, Liz, what was your journey like? Do you have any advice for people? And just what did you think about overall all the different movies from 1991 that you watched?
Yeah, so I've never looked at movies from a specific year kind of as like a whole, I guess. So it was really cool to just look at the specific year and then discover and rediscover films to love. I probably have a very unique viewpoint on a lot of these because I was not born at the time. I was not born until 1994. So these are movies that I only really would have watched if my parents put them on. So a lot of them were new to me, which is fun. I love to watch something new. And then from an advice standpoint, I would just say that there's like a bajillion movies that come out every year. So like Scott said, kind of focus on, what you're interested in, maybe those movies that were all nominated. I specifically dug deep into the categories I love, the comedies, the romance, the silly movies, all of that stuff, and had a really good time. So
Good to hear. Good to hear. Okay, well, I'm going to get a spicy take out of the way right away. I don't know if either of the two of you have a spicy take, but I kind of teased this on the last month episode, which at the point we're recording this has not officially been released, so nobody has heard what I talked about there. However, that was on the year 2001, which at the time I said might have been the deepest of all the years I covered, truly top to bottom. I've covered some other years that are really top heavy. I think 2001 just had tons and tons of movies. However, I think that 1991, after digging as deep as I did, this is the deepest year of the 21 different film years I've covered to this point. I watched 58 movies for prep, so not quite Scott level, but most of them were good, if not borderline great. And there are a handful of movies that we're going to have some challenging decisions when we get to the categories in a little bit and some of the wins that I've been struggling with. But yeah, I would say I don't feel like people give credence to 1991 as often as they talk about 1975 and 2019, and there's all these other great film years that people go to, and I don't feel like this year is as covered as others. And I hope maybe we can kind of change that discussion over the next couple hours, because I think there's a lot to unpack in this year. I don't know. Do either of you feel similarly after your journey through all the movies you watched?
Yeah, I would say too, some of that probably has to do with like recency biasy. And then also the whole like classics idea is like, oh, this from the 90s, like that can be a classic yet. But there are a lot of films, there's some cult classics from 91, there's some that probably everyone has seen either because it was like on ABC Family or whatever, like your whole life essentially. But yeah, I feel like the 90s get discredited a lot because we had bad fashion and weird people, and it was just a strange time for everyone.
Weird people.
You can count me in the weird people in the 90s.
Yeah, I'll be weird too. I think it's a strong year. I don't know if I would say it's. What I'll say is this: the movies that are really good are really good.
Mhm.
And I think maybe it also is helpful that one thing I noticed was even the bad movies look better than good movies nowadays. So that was kind of nostalgic because you're like, oh, this movie is not good, but it looks awesome. I mean, that kind of helps like elevate the year in general, I think. But yeah, I think when I was like, I had a pretty clear 5 for me, but like there's a lot of runners up. So it's when it was, yeah, the good stuff was really good. I will say that there were some movies that I remembered being pretty good that when I rewatched them did not hold up super well for me. But so I would say it's not a 99 type situation for me where I think that's just like incredible. But it's probably one of the better years of the 90s, and I would say if I were to do like, that's going to give too much away. Yeah, it's a really good year.
Okay, well, that's a good segue into the next thing, which is you had teased maybe there were some movies that you remembered were better than they actually were. This is a chance. You can talk about a movie that you did not enjoy during prep. You can talk about maybe there's a movie that you're not going to give any of your revised nominations to, but you still had a good time going back to it. This is just kind of an open forum to talk about some things. I'll jump in really quickly and then I'll turn it over to the two of you. I've got a few outlined that I did not have a good time with. And apologies to people who might enjoy these movies. First and foremost, Grand Canyon. I took a note. My note was it's basically Crash with dream sequences. For people who are familiar with the Best Picture winning Crash, probably not too familiar with Grand Canyon. So if you want to watch Crash with dreams, turn on Grand Canyon. For the Boyz, apologies to Bette Midler fans out there. I'm not a Bette Midler guy. I also don't need to see James Caan in a romantic comedy. I think there's other lanes James Caan might work for me. So I'm gonna put For the Boyz to the side, and then The Prince of Tides. I apologize. I've taken some shots at Barbra Streisand over a couple of different years of prep. I've just yet to hit my stride with Barbra Streisand. I don't like The Prince of Tides at all. The direction, the acting, the story, none of it works for me. But it wasn't all bad. Here's a bunch of movies that I'm not going to talk about when we get into categories, but I love. Paris is Burning. That's a first-time watch for me. A really incredible documentary. Slacker. It's an early Richard Linklater film that I think is hugely influential on independent cinema. Defending Your Life got Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep. Enough said there. The movie that I have found is maybe one of the most divisive movies of the 90s, and that is Steven Spielberg's Hook. Scott and I are in a Discord group where people trash Hook every day.
Why?
Thank you. Thank you. It's not at the level where I'm going to give it a revised nomination for anything, but I love Hook.
No, we're not crazy. We're not going to nominate it, but it's
Some
not
of us
bad.
might be crazy.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Hey, it is a good time. I have a blast with it. A couple others. Backdraft is just kind of like silly, dumb 90s, but I also have a good time with that one. And then Scott already mentioned it. What About Bob is just like one of those comfort movies for me from the 90s. I love the way Richard Dreyfuss and Bill Murray kind of play off each other, and it's sort of like a Looney Tunes cartoon in a live action form. I just have a lot of fun with that movie. So those are a bunch of movies out there on the good and the bad side for me. Scott, what about you? Jump in. Anything you want to talk about?
I'm going to defend Grand Canyon for a minute because calling it as bad as Crash is insane. Grand Canyon, okay, it's dated. It does not exactly hold up, but I firmly believe that movie's heart is in the right place, and I think it's trying to say something positive, and I think it's well acted, and I don't think it's that bad. But I'm a Kasdan apologist. I love most of his movies, but I really don't think Grand Canyon is that bad. It's in my runners up, I would say. I really liked it, but yeah, I saw that you didn't like. You get like 2.5 out of. I was like, okay, out of 5. For the Boys, bad. I did not enjoy that at all. That makeup at the end was funny. That old person makeup they did. Prince of Tides. I wanted to like it. It looked fantastic, as a lot of these movies do. It looked great. There was just it was so melodramatic, and I would say that I've talked to somebody who likes the book a lot, and they said the problem with the movie is that because when Streisand took over the book, she kind of made that doctor part bigger than it was in the book, and in the book the other characters are way more fleshed out, and she kind of shoehorned that character in because she's the star. So that may have been a little bit where it suffered. I don't. Okay, the other one I'm going to say is Bugsy. I did not like Bugsy at all.
I didn't either. I didn't finish it.
It was this weird pendulum that it swung between like weird, overly comic and then strangely violent all at once. And then you have Warren Beatty, who like was lighting himself with that soft like gauze, like Doris Day in the 50s, like soft lighting, like to make sure he looks beautiful in all scenes, even like nighttime scenes. I mean, that's very old fashioned, but it was just kind of silly. And then I was going to say the movie. Okay. So the one takeaway I think I had maybe this year is that the spiciest takeaway, I guess, is maybe I think William Hurt is bad. I like him in 80s stuff, but by the time 91 rolled around, The Doctor was probably the worst movie I watched in 91, in my opinion. It was one of 2 movies that came out in 91 about a doctor who gets like a dose of reality after an accident or a sickness. Regarding Henry being the other one with Harrison Ford, which I prefer. That was a very troubled production of Mike Nichols, but I think the movie's better than The Doctor, where it's just William Hurt just kind of, I don't even know how to explain it. He's so annoying in it. The way it's really hard to put into words. He's like performing for the camera, trying to be this like annoying guy, but it's just so grating that by the end. But then the problem with the movie is the movie thinks he's in the right. So by the end, he's been acting crazy. The movie's like, no, he's been fine the whole time. It's the system that's wrong. It was just too much. And then on top of that, until the end of the world, he's maybe better in that. But that movie was just a trek. It was, yeah. But anyway, I'll digress.
I haven't gone down enough William Hurt 90s movies yet because most of my William Hurt memories are from the 80s. So I'm still living in like the Body Heats and the Altered States and all the good stuff that William Hurt did. And then you could jump into History of Violence. Like there's like an end of the spectrum with William Hurt. But I'm going to explore the 90s more for you.
He's not bad. I'll take it back. I just had a rough time because I watched 2 bad movies with him back to back within like
relatively recently.
And and what that does to your brain is makes you, I don't even like this guy. What am I doing?
Yeah, what the heck?
That's my fault. He's good.
All right, Liz, what do you got for us? Throw out anything you want to talk about. Good, bad, indifferent, where you at?
Yeah, so if you know anything about me, which you probably don't, but you'll figure it out pretty quickly, is I have a very interesting taste in film. And I am unapologetic about it. I love uplifting and inspiring films, so I had a hard time watching some of these sad and like more grim movies that came out this year. There was a lot of World War II. There was a lot of documentaries that were sad. There was some horror thriller type stuff that's just not like up my alley. Another thing that was like a key theme for 91, it kept coming up, was like blindness, and I don't know what was happening there, but it was like multiple movies, and I was like, why is everyone blind in 1991? I don't understand. But other than that, there are some films in here that are like classics for me. Things that we just like had on in my house all the time, like Ernest Scared Stupid or The Addams Family or Hook, Beauty and the Beast, like all these films that are just good, that people still talk about, whether they're talking about it in a negative way or positive way, like, hey, they're talking about it. So it's eliciting emotion either way. But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say.
I'm going to kind of tip my hand to the next episode next month where I'm covering 1982. And I've covered the 80s a few times, enough to know that my hot take for the 80s is it's the decade for me where there's a clearly defined, there are the good movies and then there are the Oscar nominated movies. And the two don't intersect too often. There's like, I don't know if it's like the Reagan era conservative nature of the 80s and the Thatcherism and all that stuff. And maybe because 91's kind of on the tipping point just past the 80s, there's still a little bit of residual, like we haven't quite reached the point in the 90s where the Academy's kind of waking up to like what's on the cutting edge of what's coming in the 90s. Like I feel like there's a turn about 94, 95 that you really see things, and we're still a little bit before that. And so there are definitely going to be some nominations we get to where I'm kind of scratching my head at what was actually nominated versus what won. Bugsy is another movie that I can't process Bugsy being in the discussion for a Best Picture.
One of the things I was going to say was I think the nominations in many categories are terrible for the movie, what they could have nominated. I'll say that. I'm sorry. There are two more movies I just wanted to bring up because I would feel bad if I didn't mention them. Because, okay, I love Spike Lee. And I love the movies on either side of this movie. I love Do the Right Thing. I love Mo Better Blues. I love Malcolm X. I love Crooklyn. Jungle Fever was a mess, in my opinion. Like a really bad mess where it was like the main romance of the movie was so unfocused and not well done that like the subplot with Samuel L. Jackson and Ruby Dee just totally like took over that movie and became what you wanted like what you were looking for. And I don't know if y'all remember the last shot, the very end of that movie. Go back and watch. It's on YouTube. Just watch very last scene of Jungle Fever. It's unintentionally one of the biggest laughs you'll have. It's a big swing, but he does not pull it off. Okay, sorry. And then the last one I want to talk about is Rambling Rose. What is this movie?
A Rambling Rose.
Well, honorary mention for the most insane, like bonkers thing. It was like I felt like I was watching like a train wreck, but it was like trying to be Tennessee Williams, but really missing the mark with that dialogue and those performances. I wrote on my letterbox, it makes Licorice Pizza look like Child's Play when it comes to inappropriate relationships.
Oh no.
And it had like the most overbearing horns on the soundtrack. Like, it was all just like loud horns constantly. And it got some pretty big nominations. So that movie was confusing to me, but okay, I'll stop now.
I think when you posted about it on Twitter, I feel like I went into the comments because you were getting a couple of comments from people on that movie. And I thought, ooh, maybe I'm off base because I almost turned off Rambling Rose because I was having a really hard time getting through it. But it felt like there was maybe a contingent of people who were enjoying it. So, hey, I feel like every movie has somebody who's its biggest champion. And if you love Rambling Rose, good for you.
Yeah.
And also, so by the time this will go up, my Spike Lee top 10 little mini episode that I'm doing will be up. Jungle Fever is not on my top 10. I don't think it's anywhere near Spike's best work. So I'm definitely with you on that, Scott.
He was on such a heater in that period. It's just a weird one in the middle that doesn't work out of all the movies that are great that he's making. I don't know.
Yes.
They can't all be gems, I suppose.
All right. Well, before we get into the categories, it is worth mentioning if Liz, Scott, and I agree with any of the actual Oscar wins for any of the categories we're going to dive into, that selection will skip the online voting process. It gets automatic entry into the Almanac. It doesn't happen very often, but it does still happen. So we are going to list off what was nominated. We're going to list off what won in every category. We'll wipe the slate clean, and then we will make our own nominations and our own winner selections. Before we get into the categories, though, a couple of quick notes on the Academy Awards ceremony that year. So it was the third consecutive year that Billy Crystal hosted. For my money, maybe the best host of the Oscars. I just love a good Billy Crystal monologue, a song and dance number. He felt like the perfect guy at that time. So yeah, always nice going back and watching the YouTube clips of Billy Crystal doing that stuff. This was also the fourth and final time Orion Pictures, which was really big at the time, had won Best Picture. The others were Amadeus in 1984, Platoon in 86, and then Dances with Wolves the year prior in 1990. So with that out of the way, You guys ready to get into the categories?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. So up first, we've got the Best Supporting Actress. The actual nominees in 1991 were Juliette Lewis for Cape Fear, Jessica Tandy for Fried Green Tomatoes, Kate Nelligan for The Prince of Tides, Diane Lane for Rambling Rose, and the win went to Mercedes Rule for her performance in The Fisher King. Now, with both of you being new to the show, I will happily jump in first and kind of ease you into this first category, and I will start off, and then I'll go to the two of you. Okay, before I get to my 5, I've got some honorable mentions I at least want to give a quick shout out to. First off is Judy Davis, who plays Audrey Taylor in Barton Fink, which I think is one of the Coen brothers' more underrated films, though I think at this point cinephiles are really starting to wake up to that movie, and it's turning a corner. Love what Judy Davis does in that movie. This might get a little eye roll from people because it's kind of a silly performance, but I really like Lori Petty as Tyler in Point Break. Again, that's just a movie that's like near and dear to my heart. There's a nostalgia spot for Point Break, and I'm young enough to remember Lori Petty in Free Willy and this, and it's like she was just a part of my childhood. And then Sissy Spacek for Liz Garrison in JFK. She's not in that movie a ton, but anytime Sissy Spacek's in a movie, I am a happy person. I will watch her do anything in any movie. But here are the 5 women that I have given my revised nominations to in 1991. And as I'm going to do in every category, I'm going to list it alphabetically by the order of the film. So up first, I have Nia Long as Brandy in Boyz n the Hood. My second nomination is going to go to Tyra Farrell as Brenda, also for Boyz n the Hood. I love the two of them and what they do in that film. My next nomination is going to go to Juliette Lewis as Danielle in Cape Fear. She is tremendous playing off of De Niro and Nick Nolte and everyone else that's doing stuff in that movie. My fourth nomination will go to the actual Oscar winner. That's Mercedes Rule, who plays Anne in The Fisher King. And then my fifth and final nomination is going to go to Laurie Metcalf as Susie in JFK. Now, I'm really tempted to give my win to Juliette Lewis, who I think, especially given her age and what she does in Cape Fear, she holds her own toe-to-toe with De Niro and Nolte. She has to deal with some really creepy men in that movie, and so I give her a lot of credit. But I'm going to give my win to somebody who I think is still so undervalued. And when you talk about supporting roles, I think this woman is one of the great supporting women in film, television, and theater work, and that's Laurie Metcalf for JFK. JFK is obviously a massive ensemble film. It is primarily dominated by male characters, and yet I think Laurie Metcalf does a really great job in that movie in relatively limited screen time to assert herself in a room full of men at any given time. She's the only woman almost always in any scene she's in, and yet it always feels like she has power. She has control. She's not sort of pushed to the side. I've literally just watched Lady Bird today for a future episode I'll be doing, and it's just always refreshing to see Laurie Metcalf. She also has a huge part in my life from Roseanne, which she won 3 consecutive Emmy Awards for in the 90s, immediately following JFK. I didn't realize she had 2 Tony Awards in her locker for different theatrical performances on stage. I just love Laurie Metcalf, and I think it's finally time to give her an opportunity to be seen as one of the great actresses, because I feel like she never gets talked about. And for a brief moment there with Lady Bird, she was in the conversation and then she sort of disappeared again. But I love Laurie Metcalf and JFK. She's going to get my win. Let's go over to Liz now.
Okay.
Liz, feel free to jump in with any honorable mentions first if you want, if you have any, and then give us your nominees.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna ruin everything because I meant to mention this in my spicy take, but I feel like every episode of yours somebody mentions how animated films and comedies don't get enough love, and it's a spicy take for the world, but it's not a spicy take on this show, so I'm treating this like a safe space. And so here it is. I do have one honorable mention for this one. This was my first time watching The Man in the Moon, and I thought it was actually a really good movie. There was a couple, things here and there, but I'm giving my honorable mention to Emily Warfield, who plays Maureen, the older sister. I thought she was just like the perfect girl next door, big sister, cute, everything that you think of when you think of like an American Girl. I thought she did a great job there. And so then I have my nominees, and I did them kind of in order. So I've got like 5 to 4, and then I'll say my winner. So I've got number 5. I've got Julia Roberts as Tinkerbell and Hook. I love Tinkerbell. Big Tinkerbell fan. I thought Julia Roberts was perfect. She did a great job. I did read online. I'm like a big like movie facts gal, and I did read that she was difficult to work with, which I think is hilarious because Tinkerbell is such a little diva, and so like having Julia Roberts also be a diva on set is just fantastic. I love that. My number 4 is Meryl Streep in Defending Our Lives. I will literally do anything for Meryl Streep. I love her. I don't think I've seen anything she's been in that I've hated. So I'm giving her that there. Number 3, I've got Brooke Smith. She was Catherine in Silence of the Lambs. I think she is underrated and undervalued overall, and just loved her in that. My number 2, I've got Christina. Is it Ricci? Ricci?
Oh, Ricci.
Ricci. Okay. She played Wednesday in the Addams Family, and I recently yesterday started watching the second season of Wednesday, and so I was like, wow, I did a good pick there because Jenna Ortega based her whole performance off of this girl, and she's iconic. So giving her moment there. And then my winner is probably a little bit of a surprise, but I've got Angela Lansbury for her performance as Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast. I think it's iconic. I read that she did the title sequence song in one take. It wasn't even supposed to be her. They were doing like hey, let's just see what this might sound like. And it's perfect. It's used for everything. It's like the Disney song. It's what everyone knows. And I just think Mrs. Potts is the best. So there it is.
I love it. Something told me you were going to be pretty into Beauty and the Beast on this episode.
Yes.
You're kicking it off right away. Not enough voice acting nominations happen on this show, but when they do, I always like to see it. In a couple of months, I'll be talking to a Disney director and writer and kind of getting a little. I'm fascinated with what goes into like directing an animated feature, and I'm going to talk to him about that. And I really want to dig into voice work and how a director works with a voice actor in that setting, because I think there's a lot of intricacy, and I don't think voice acting gets the same love that live action acting gets. So that is wonderful that we got Angela Lansbury right off the board there. Good stuff. Scott, what do you have for us?
Okay, honorable mentions. The aforementioned movie I did not like, The Doctor. There's a really great performance by Elizabeth Perkins in it, playing a patient that William Hurt becomes friends with who's dying. And she's the best part, a bright spot in that movie. Sarah Jessica Parker in LA Story, I think, is a great comedic performance early in the career of someone who would become a big comedy star in a way, I mean, yeah, she's known for comedy, I'd say, but she's just really fun, energetic. She's exactly what that character is supposed to be. I think she embodies it really well. Jane Birkin in La Belle Noiseuse, the French movie, she plays the artist wife, and she has to play so many strange emotions that whole movie, because she's like kind of jealous, but she's kind of like, he needs this. Like the push and pull of her character was really interesting to me, and I thought she did a great job with that. Okay, so my nominations, I did alphabetically by name, so we all did it differently. Judy Davis in Barton Fink. Could have also been Naked Lunch, but it's Barton Fink because that's the one where I really thought she was just tremendous. I really, really loved her. I think she was one of probably the best actresses of this time period. She might even get my win the next year. Like, she was so good in so many movies in the early 90s. Jessica Lange in Cape Fear, for two specific reasons. She has two scenes in that movie that pretty much blew me away. One is when she describes what happened to the dog. It's like a close-up of her face describing what De Niro did to the dog. And that was terrific. I thought the way she described that and like just the emotions. And then at the end, upsetting scene where she's basically telling him, De Niro, take me and let my daughter go. I thought she was just great. Jessica Lange is great in everything, but I really, really thought she did, like, it's just very raw and emotional, and I liked her a lot in that. Mary McDonnell in Grand Canyon. Whatever you have to say about Grand Canyon, if there's a character you connected to in the movie probably and wanted to follow, it was her. I think she did a really good job with what some might call stilted dialogue at times. I just found her very believable. I understood her character, why she wanted this baby and everything. Like, it all made sense to me. And I thought she did a great job. Mary Louise Parker in Fried Green Tomatoes. Mary Louise Parker is also great in Grand Canyon, by the way. But in Fried Green Tomatoes, she really has probably a better character. And it was a tough call between her and Mary Stuart Masterson. They're both so good, and they have such good scenes together, and they have good chemistry. But I just went with Mary Louise Parker. She's always been a favorite of mine, and I thought she was great. And my last nominee is Brooke Smith in The Silence of the Lambs. Like Liz said, she's great. Underrated in that movie, I would say. You believe the fear. You even believe at the beginning, the way she's feeling when she sees him struggling with the thing. Like, you can see on her face, she's like, I know I shouldn't do this. She's like, but I don't want to be rude. I'm going to try to be polite. Okay, I'll go help him. Mm-hmm. Like, she knows that it's a bad idea, and she still does it. And you like, that's believable. That's life. We have to do stuff like that sometimes where we just don't want to be rude. So we do make bad decisions, or not even bad, but like just, doesn't make a lot of sense. But she's great all the way through, especially in the last sequence when Jodie comes down. Like, her yelling is just, you're just like, you agree with her. You're like, yes, go ahead, get her out. Anyway, so those are my 5. My winner is Judy Davis and Barton Fink. Barton Fink is one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies, and it only improved on this rewatch. I think it's just totally original, brilliant, captures writer's block in a way that I can't even, the best way I've ever seen maybe it captured on screen. But her character playing I guess it's assistant and mistress to the John Mahoney's Faulkner guy. I just really liked her. I found her very believable, warm, and like she's got something about her that's very authentic. Like, you believe everything. It doesn't ever feel like acting. That's my experience with watching her in movies, and I really, really thought she knocked out of the park in Barton Fink. So that was my winner.
All right, we got 4 different options there. So neither of you had Mercedes Rule in your 5. Did either of you have her even like in the conversation?
She was a runner-up for me.
Okay.
Yeah, she was great. She was probably the best part of that movie for me.
I find her to be like not in the movie enough for me. I had her in my 5 nominees, but I wanted a little bit more. I was like, for an Oscar win, it doesn't feel as like substantial as I was wanting it to be. Like, I don't feel like it's a win that anyone ever remembers or talks about anymore.
No, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have 4 different options for this first category. So we're starting out all over the board. Almost all of us had different picks from the Academy, and you two aligned on Brooke Smith. Brooke Smith, that's a really good shout, too, because for all of the things that people remember and talk about from The Silence of the Lambs, she never, ever gets mentioned in the conversation. So that was really cool that you two both had her in your nominees. But at the end of the day, you're going to have 4 choices for this category when the voting comes. You've got Mercedes Rule from The Fisher King, who the Academy gave the win to. You can side with me. I've got Laurie Metcalf for JFK. You can side with Liz, who has Angela Lansbury for Beauty and the Beast. Or you can side with Scott. He's got Judy Davis in Barton Fink. All right, let's see if we continue to go off in different directions with this next category. So supporting actor now. For 1991, the actors nominated were Michael Lerner for Barton Fink, Ben Kingsley for Bugsy, Harvey Keitel for Bugsy, Tommy Lee Jones for JFK, and the Oscar went to Jack Palance for his work in City Slickers. This time, Liz, we're going to go over to you to kick things off. So, honorable mentions and your nominees. Who do you have?
Yeah, so honorable mention Shocker, it's a Hook person. But it's Dante Basco. He plays Rufio, which I just thought was such a fun
Rufio.
character. Yes. He was so fun and so good. And he really captured like the teenage, like angsty, want to be different, but also want so much help, just want to be like part of everything kind of deal. Um, I I love him, so I had to give him a shout out. Um, and then for my nominees, again, they're very different. Just warning everyone here. So I've got Martin Short from Father of the Bride. He played Frank, which is the eccentric wedding planner, which is just fabulous. And then I've got Christopher Lloyd, who played Uncle Fester in the Addams Family, which is a fantastic performance. That is such a weird character. And he just pulled it off fantastically, and he looked awful. So there's that too. I've got another Hook guy here. So I've got Bob Hoskins. He played Smee, which is just iconic. I feel like there's been so many characters since based off of Smee and that performance that he did. And it's, I don't know, another iconic one. And then I've got Jerry Orbach as Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast, another iconic voice acting moment, iconic song, iconic everything. You really believe that he's this like cute little candelabra that's in love with the feather duster, and it's just perfect. Like everything about that performance is amazing. And then my winner for this one is a little different because a lot of people and the Oscars had this person as a leading actor, but I had him as a supporting actor. I've got Anthony Hopkins for Silence of the Lambs. He's in like less than 20 minutes of that movie, which is kind of crazy for him to be a lead. I know he's got a lot of iconic moments and quotable moments. He really leaves a mark, but in my eyes, he's a supporting actor. So that's my winner in this category.
I didn't know if we were going to get to it in supporting or lead, but it was inevitable that the Anthony Hopkins discussion needed to be addressed. Scott, I will leave it to your nominees to see where he ends up, and we'll go from there. We'll see if we need to end. We'll see if we need to have the conversation now or wait.
Okay. I'm very relieved you said that, Liz, actually. Because, okay, here we go. Ted Levine in Silence of the Lambs is a runner-up for me. So good in it that I think maybe he destroyed his career. Because that voice and that performance is so creepy and so believable that you just, I mean, he's incredible. And then the funny thing was I read that he and Brooke Smith got along really well and like would hang out on set, you know, and stuff. So that's nice to hear, but like he's so scary. I'm not going to do the impression. Tommy Lee Jones in JFK was a runner-up for me. I thought he was great. Tommy Lee Jones, I think, is always great. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him bad in a movie.
Very true.
Yeah, I really, really liked him in JFK in a smaller part. Okay, so my nominees, Lawrence Fishburne in Boys in the Hood as Lucius Furious, the father. Is it Furious? Yeah. Yeah, he was great. He has a lot of, like, monologues that could seem very like stuffy or like, you know, preachy, and he never really feels that way. He feels like a father who cares and is just trying to like help his son. I thought he was great. John Goodman and Barton Fink, so close to the win for me, because the way that you buy the whole like range of his character, like from, you know, at the beginning he's like a friendly neighbor, like kind of, oh yeah, he's just like a nice guy, he's just trying to like do the right thing, and then by the end you're terrified of him, like but he doesn't, it's not like a quick switch, like you buy that transition. So he's just so good in every aspect of that part to me. I can't believe they didn't nominate him at the Oscars, but I think they didn't know what to make of that movie in some ways. Third nominee is Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. I kind of understand people who want to put him in actor, the way that I squared in my brain is, if Clarice was a male character, would you say the movie had 2 male leads? And you wouldn't. You just wouldn't. He's in a lot of the first half, or he's in a lot of those scenes, but he kind of disappears for the second part.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take anything away from him. I still think he might be the best out of all the nominees I have on my paper, but he's I think he's supporting in the movie, in the story. He doesn't have his own arc. He's part of Clarice's arc. So I agree with you, Liz. Supporting. Okay. Next is Robert Patrick in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. A terrifying performance. So good, so focused, so like creepy, and like the way he's just like so slight, but like so menacing, and like he like never breaks for a minute. You just are terrified of him, which is quite a feat considering how, like, you know, he's just like a kind of a skinny cop, but he's like really scary and menacing and threatening. And I like the way, this is more of a credit to the other actors, but I like when he takes on the form of the other actors in the movie. They kind of work together to act like each other. Like anyway, that's kind of cool. I like the way that they keep that continuity going. That may be more of a Cameron thing, but okay. And my final nominee is Donald Sutherland in Backdraft.
Oh,
he's in one scene in Backdraft, and he's in jail, and he's getting interviewed, and he is an arsonist who like talks about his joy of seeing people burn and like setting people on fire. And he's so scary and so good in that scene. I also think he's good in JFK, by the way, but I just thought he really blew me away in Backdraft, a movie that didn't really stick with me. I mean, I thought it was good, but it didn't really stand, you know, like I don't think about Backdraft a lot. But, you know, there's some movies you watch that are fun, but they're kind of like vapor. They kind of go through your head and they're gone. But Donald Sutherland in that movie, he was scary and he stuck out in my head. And I've always thought he's great, but I thought he did a really good job with a very small part. Like, he really made a meal of that small part. Okay, so my winner is Anthony Hopkins in The Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Yeah. A performance that is it's not really even the way you remember it. Like, I think when we think of Hannibal Lecter, we think of what Hopkins kind of turned that character into in the sequels, almost in a way, almost like a parody of itself, or like, but in the first one, he's so like underplaying it and focused and just like zeroed in, and like, it's scarier because he's quiet and not over the top. And the scenes with him and Jodie Foster are just some of the best scenes in movies, probably. I mean, it's just so good. And like, even that first shot of him where he's just like standing at attention, all the details about their characters, especially his, and like their relationship is perfect. And at the time, I don't think Anthony Hopkins was a big star. I think he had kind of a weird 80s. So like, it obviously propelled him into superstardom, and he's just a great choice. And yeah, I think he's by far the best. Even though I really love John Goodman, it's got to be Anthony Hopkins.
All right, so the door is open now. So, and for the canon of this show, this is not the first time that there will be an actor who is now going to be in the voting process for lead and support. It happened with James Dean earlier this season. It happened with Anne Bancroft at the end of last season for The Graduate. So it's happened before, where you get these like category manipulative, like, did the Oscars get it right? So Hopkins will also enter the fray for supporting and lead. And I'm going to save my Anthony Hopkins take for the lead category. There was some category fraud that I had some issues with that I will get to now, though. So here are my honorable mentions, and here are my nominees. First honorable mention is going to be Ice Cube in Doughboy, as Doughboy in Boys in the Hood. Just, I mean, who would have thought Ice Cube in 1991 could act at all? Let alone be a really, like, I mean, you could argue how much is he acting, like how much is he just being like what he sees on the street, but whatever he's doing is very compelling to me. I really like Ice Cube. Just watched the worst movie of all time, maybe today, War of the Worlds, which just came out with Ice Cube, funny enough. And even in a bad movie, Ice Cube's kind of fun to watch. I enjoy Ice Cube, whether it's the Jump Street movies or whatever. Robert Patrick is on the outside looking in for me as the T-1000 in Terminator. I do love what he does with that movie. There's just some other people that I had a little stronger feelings for. And then this is a category manipulation move by me. I don't think Robin Williams is the lead in The Fisher King as Perry, so I moved him into the supporting side of things, and he's an honorable mention. I think the actual lead of that film is Jeff Bridges, and so I thought that was kind of a weird way that they manipulated things in 91. But as far as my actual 5, here are the 5 gentlemen that I have in my category. First and foremost, I've got John Goodman as Carl Madman Munt in Barton Fink. I can't say anything more than Scott really did, other than he's from my hometown here in St. Louis, and we cherish John Goodman. Everybody's got a John Goodman story. He's a phenomenal actor, and if there's ever been somebody made for Coen Brothers material, it's John Goodman, and he's in so many of them, and he's just a delight, and he's a chameleon. He can change in anything, and he's phenomenal in Barton Fink. Second nominee is going to go to Lawrence Fishburne as Furious Styles in Boys in the Hood. Can't say enough good things about Lawrence Fishburne in that film and in general. Third nominee, we're talking category manipulation here again. I've got Robert De Niro as a supporting character as Max Cady in Cape Fear. I do not think he's the lead in that movie. Just for my personal taste, I think Nick Nolte is the lead in that film. I think Cady is secondary, and I think De Niro is frightening as Max Cady in that movie. My fourth nominee is going to go to Tommy Lee Jones as Clay Shaw or Clay Bertrand in JFK. Again, JFK was a tough one in this category because there's like 20 different guys in this movie that you could put in the mix, whether it's like John Candy in a really small quirky role, or Joe Pesci doing something just bonkers with his character, or Donald Sutherland in literally one scene. But I thought Tommy Lee Jones was kind of the glue of all the supporting characters for me. And then my fifth and final nominee is going to go to Patrick Swayze as Bodie in Point Break. Just that's one of the coolest characters in all of 90s film right there. Bodie in Point Break. It between that and Dirty Dancing, I have had a love affair with Patrick Swayze my whole life. I just think he's unbelievably I'm starstruck when I see Patrick Swayze on screen. As much as I wanted to give a win to De Niro for what he does with Cape Fear, I'm going to give my win to Lawrence Fishburne for Boys in the Hood. Every time I go back to that movie, I think that, especially being a father now, that father character is so complex to me because he's imparting wisdom on his son, and he's also he's able to be a parental figure and be in charge of the situation, and yet he can also talk at his kid's level at times. The way he talks to Cuba about relationships and things of that nature, it's almost like a friend dynamic, but then he can flip the switch back to being a father figure. And it's kind of one of those male father roles that I've sort of used as a North Star in my own having children, where I look at that and I'm like, okay, that's an ideal goal for being a father, somebody who can be mature, be imparting wisdom on your kid, and yet also still trying to understand their perspective, trying to relate to them as a human being on their own level. And I find that character so compelling. It's such an interesting piece to me. It doesn't feel like a stereotypical thing you'd see from a movie in the 90s that's predominantly African American, where there's drug dealers and things like that. You'd think that father character would go in a different direction, and it doesn't. And I think John Singleton and the writing is really strong in that movie. So Lawrence Fishburne, I'm just enamored with everything he does. Unfortunately, he's probably going to get shellacked when we get to the vote by Anthony Hopkins, because Anthony Hopkins is a juggernaut. But I at least wanted to put Lawrence Fishburne on the table to be in contention. And also, none of us had Jack Palance from City Slickers in our 5. I'll jump in first and say I didn't have him anywhere near the discussion of my 5. He's hardly in that movie. I mean, he doesn't show up for a half an hour, and then spoiler alert for people who haven't seen it, he's dead within an hour. So he's barely in the movie. I don't get that win at all.
I love how when the first, unexpectedly, the first one became a hit, they had to give him a twin so they could make a sequel and bring him back. But I think he's fine in that movie, kind of funny in his stoic way, but obviously it was like a career pat on the back. I mean, yeah, that's what it felt like anyway.
There's nothing more you can really say about it other than the most memorable thing about that win is when he got up on stage and did one arm push-ups, which was a whole thing. But Okay,
Then the next year they accused him of reading the wrong name when he said Marissa Tomei. They were so mean about that. Yeah. Anyway.
All right, so you have 3 options when we get to social media, and Anthony Hopkins will have the opportunity to compete in both categories because both Liz and Scott have Anthony Hopkins in supporting for The Silence of the Lambs. I've got Lawrence Fishburne for Boys in the Hood, and then the Academy that year had Jack Palance for City Slickers. All right, let's jump over to the Best Actress category now. So here were the 5 women that were nominated in 1991. You had Bette Midler for the Boys. You had Laura Dern for Rambling Rose. Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon both for Thelma and Louise. And the statue went to Jodie Foster for what she did with Silence of the Lambs. A couple of keynotes really quickly. So Diane Ladd and Laura Dern became the very first mother and daughter nominated for an Oscar in the same year. And Thelma and Louise is the last movie to earn 2 nominations in this Best Actress category, which is kind of crazy that we haven't seen that happen again since 1991. But that's where we're at. Okay, Scott, you get to kick things off for this round. So who do you have nominated in this?
This was the hardest category for me. I had like 12 people who were fighting for the spots in this. I'll just read a couple of honorable mentions real quick that I don't think maybe you guys wouldn't say. Sally Field in Soap Dish, I think, is an underrated comedic performance, and I think that might be my favorite comedy of the year. I think it's so funny. I think she does such a good job of playing a woman who has spent her whole life on soap operas. I love the scenes in that movie where she tries to overreact to something in a soap opera way, and whoever she's playing against will just be like, yeah, whatever. And then she immediately drops and it's like, oh yeah, that's not going to work. Like with Whoopi Goldberg. I think Sally Field's great and everything, but I think she's really funny in that movie and just gets the character exactly right. Reese Witherspoon on Man on the Moon, her first performance, she came ready from the beginning. Like, she's so good. It's not a child performance. It's a real performance, a real character she builds in that movie. It's great. Allison Steadman in Life is Sweet. She plays the mother. And there's something about her that's so there. I've known people like that in my life who just laugh at everything, like as almost like a defense mechanism. Like you notice in that movie, she's just constantly laughing after trying to make a joke out of everything. And that makes the scene land much harder when she actually has the heart-to-heart with her daughter at the end. I think she's great. Mike Lee, he gets the best performances out of cast anyway, but she is great in that. She was very close to breaking my 5, but here we go. Gina Davis and Thelma and Louise. At the beginning of the movie, I'm almost kind of like, I don't know about this, the accent, I'm not quite sure. And by the end, I totally buy that character. I don't think there's anything she doesn't do. Especially the like way that character changes by the end. What she says to Susan Sarandon, like, if you want to go back, that's fine, but I can't. Like, this is it for me. Like, it's done. I believe her when she says that, and I think she's just so good at selling the transition of that character throughout the movie. Okay. Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs, one of the all-time great performances in film. She's giving a lot of the performance literally to the lens of the camera, which I can't imagine how hard that is. Like, that's a Jonathan Demme staple, obviously, from like a specific shot he used in Something Wild, and then he kept using it. Like, I think Married to the Mob uses it. Philadelphia uses it a lot, but like just characters talking to the camera. She is just, I don't know enough to say about how believable she is, the way that she plays all the different colors of that character, the way she plays the dynamics of being a woman working with all these men and the way that the men treat her. The scene in the car with Scott Glenn where she says, "It matters what you say." Like, there's just so many moments in the movie that you're just like, she's perfect. And then, of course, at the end, you get to really feel like she plays the fear element so well. It's just a slam dunk. Okay, Carrie Fox in An Angel at My Table, who plays the third, I guess it's like the second and third. She plays the adult version of the main character that we meet. It's a great performance because you feel like you know everything you need to know about the woman, but you still don't. There's still mystery about her. You're not quite sure why she reacts to things the way she does, or what you don't feel like you have exactly a good handle on her, just like you don't a regular person. Like you can understand them, but you don't always understand them. And I feel like she does such a good job. And that I think that has a lot to do with Jane Campion being a great director, especially, telling women's stories. But I thought Carrie Fox was great in Angel on My Table with that crazy hair, and she's just so great and touching in that. Okay. Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2, one of the best performances ever. I mean, like, what else can you say? I mean, it's just the way that it's brilliant the way that they changed that character from the first movie to the second movie. Like all the changes they make about her and the way she's changed from the trauma of what happened to her and the future trauma of what's going to happen to her is crazy. The way she plays the fear when she sees the Terminator and then has to like rearrange her brain to figure out that he's, the good guy now. Also, she plays the best waking up from a dream moment I've ever seen in my life on film. The most believable, like when she wakes up, she's doing it all with just her eyes, and it's so good. It's just unbelievable. And I got to see it in the theater, which was exciting last month, and I was just like, yeah. She was great. My last nominee is a movie I really hope you guys watched, but I don't know if you did. It's a movie called Trust by Hal Hartley.
Mm-mm.
And the performance is by Adrian Shelley. So Hal Hartley was one of the first pioneers of the independent film movement. He had a few movies that came out in the early 90s. And then he kind of made movies throughout the 90s. But it's a love story, a very quirky, very specific love story. Hal Hartley is like a composer and a writer, and he writes in a very musical cadence. Like it's very specific. What it reminds me of is if you think about like Gilmore Girls, the way that dialogue is so specifically arch that if you had the wrong actor read it, it would sound probably really bad. But Lauren Graham is so good for it that she knows how to read that stuff. And Adrian Shelley, she plays just a very naive, quirky girl who falls in love, and she wears her heart on her sleeve, and it's hard to explain why it's so good to me, but it's so believable. And she gets it feels like an actor and a director really getting each other perfectly. She knows the rhythms, and she's just, because he worked with her, I think, twice. But anyway, Adrian Shelley, who was great, who went on to write Waitress and starred in that. So there's also a really good documentary about her on Max that I'll plug if you haven't seen it, because she passed away, unfortunately, very young and under tragic circumstances. There's a really good documentary about her. Okay, so Adrian Shelley is my fifth. And my winner is Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs. It's got to be. Linda Hamilton. Sorry, any other year, Linda Hamilton, but it's got to be Jodie Foster.
Back to Adrian Shelley really quickly. I was about to say, I better bookmark Trust. And then you triggered me a little bit when you said Gilmore Girls, which is like nails on a chalkboard to me.
It's not like that. I don't mean it like that.
Okay.
As I was saying that, I was like, that's probably telling you the wrong thing. It doesn't sound like that at all. What it is when you watch early Hal Hartley, this might sound bad too, but I mean it as a compliment. You finally see, you're like, oh, this is what Zach Braff was trying to do in Garden State, but not doing well. You know what I mean? Like it's a particular early 90s indie type of arch dialogue where it's like people are just saying what they feel, but it's believable. I don't even know how to explain why it works, but it does. But if you guys didn't get to it, I would highly recommend Trust if you get a chance. It's really, really good. Okay. And if you like romance, if you like comedy, I think you really like it.
You won me back over. You scared me with Gilmore Girls.
Forget that completely. It's not like
I
that.
love Gilmore Girls. It worked for me.
It's kind of like Gilmore Girls. No, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to get you guys to watch it.
My wife loves Gilmore Girls, but the speed with which they talk is just, it bombards my brain, and I can't take it because it's kind of how my wife and all of her sisters talk.
It's so real.
It's too fast. It's too much. It like gives me anxiety thinking about them talking.
Yeah, like 150 page scripts for an hour of television.
Yes. All right, we'll go to my picks, and then we will let Liz finish us off for this category. Okay, I have a slew of honorable mentions because, like Scott said, this was one of the harder categories for me, and this is also the deepest Best Actress category I've covered for 21 episodes so far. I was really happy. I've been in like the 1970s over the summer, and the women just didn't get a lot of opportunities in the 70s, and it's been really refreshing to come off 2001, which had some great female performances, and now 1991, a ton of great female performances. So even though these are honorable mentions, in most years they would get in a 5 because they're all phenomenal. Up first, I have Lily Taylor, who plays Rose Fenny in Dogfight. Dogfight was a movie that I hadn't seen in a long time, and it knocked me over. I was so impressed with what Lily Taylor does and what River Phoenix does in that movie. I thought she was such a big theme for 91 for me was strong, assertive, confident women. The women in this year, like, they weren't taking shit from the guys in a lot of situations. And this was one of those performances where I was like, Lily Taylor, as soon as she gets an eye on what's going on with the guys and what they're trying to do with the situation without spoiling for people, once she gets an understanding of what's happening, she takes control of the situation. She's a really strong, powerful woman. Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis are both going to be outside looking in for me for Thelma and Louise, just because, I don't know, it was hard to decide one over the other. And I felt like it would be unfair to put only one of them in because I can't see that movie without the both of them side by side. And so I had to put both of them, unfortunately, on the outside. Irene Jacob in The Double Life of Veronique was really good. And then Juliette Binoche as Michelle in The Lovers on the Bridge. It's not my favorite Juliette Binoche film or performance, but she was really, really good in it. As far as the 5, though, first up, I have Maggie Chung, who plays Ruan Lingyu in Center Stage, a movie I'd never seen before. And we get so many biopics nowadays, and it's like, I don't need to know a backstory about said person. I already know everything about that person. There's enough books on them. Center Stage was one of those where I was like, oh, wow, this is a story about a real person who I don't have much familiarity with. And it was just a refreshing entry point to like want to learn more about this woman who's this silent era star. And so I loved what Maggie Chung did with that performance. Second, I've got Gong Li from Raise the Red Lantern, who I'm a huge Gong Li fan, and I thought Raise the Red Lantern was a really, really wonderful movie that she excelled in. Third nomination is going to go to a movie that I don't think many people have seen, but I'm a big fan of it, and it's Mimi Rogers, who plays Sharon in The Rapture. That's a dark movie, and Mimi is given some really tough stuff to do in that, but she carries you through some intense moments in that movie with her power of performance, and I had to give her some love there. Then I've got Jodie Foster, obviously, for Silence of the Lambs, playing Clarice Starling. What more can you say about that performance that's not already been said for 40 plus years? And I've got Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor in Terminator 2, just because, like Scott said, what she is in Terminator, the first Terminator in 1984, and then where she evolves, she's like alongside Sigourney Weaver in Alien, she's like one of these feminist, powerful, strong, badass characters in action sci-fi films, and like she's sort of like set the bar for me, and I had to put her in the conversation there. At the end of the day, though, most years you could give it to any other woman. How can you argue with Jodie Foster, really, for me? I mean, everything about Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs is perfect. She doesn't miss a note. She's vulnerable, yet she's also always in control of herself, even when she's like dealing with the fear of what's going on. She's like not afraid to keep pushing herself further into the abyss, the unknown, the darkness. It's up there with one of the great performances of all time, not just on the female side, not just in lead actress. This is actually the third time in 4 episodes where I've completely sided with the Academy on lead actress, so I'm kind of on a pretty good run agreeing with them. Yeah, Jodie Foster's perfect in The Silence of the Lambs. I can't complain. Liz, a little bit of pressure on you now. If you pick Jodie Foster, she doesn't have to go to a vote. She's in. If you pick anyone else, you're going to be on a little bit of an island by yourself when we get to a vote. So we'll see where you go with this one.
Okay. Well, I won't give it away just yet. My honorable mentions, I have Paige O'Hara, who's Belle in Beauty and the Beast. I just had to because I love that film. I also had Linda Hamilton in my honorable mentions. That's not really the kind of movie I normally watch. but she was very fabulous. So then for my 5, I had Maggie Chung from Center Stage. I thought she was fantastic. We threw a little bit of shade at the beginning of the episode at Bette Midler for the boys, but I love Bette Midler. Hocus
I'm
Pocus
sorry.
is one of my favorite movies ever, mostly because of her. So she's in there mainly because I love her, but also I thought it was right. And then I have a package deal here. Like you, I didn't think it was fair to include one or the other for Thelma and Louise. So I have Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon. I have them together. So if they were to win, they would be a package deal. And then I have Reese Witherspoon for Man in the Moon, who I really wanted to give my win to her because I am obsessed with Reese Witherspoon. Scott, like you said, she was only 14 when she filmed this movie. She has so much range. She has so much maturity.
She's a star, like, already. She's got the
literally,
star presence.
yes.
Yeah.
This was her debut, and you can already tell how amazing she's gonna be. I just love her in general, but she was fantastic in this movie. She's good in everything. I don't think there's a single film she's been in where it hasn't been fantastic. But my winner, I did choose Jodie Foster from Silence of the Lambs. I think this is the only one. Well, never mind. I won't say that. Yeah, Jodie Foster, Silence of the Lambs.
All right. So you have Gina Davis and Sarandon packed together as one nomination. I like that because
Yeah.
it's hard to parse out like who's pulling more weight. I know Scott's got Gina and not Sarandon in there.
Yeah,
I think Gina's. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I think that the movie doesn't work if they aren't both. They didn't have so much chemistry, and they didn't kind of like work together, play off each other. If one was better than the other, the film doesn't work. Thelma and Louise doesn't work. So I had to put them together because you can't have one without the other.
Unless you're Scott, and then you only have one in.
I just think Thelma's a better part, and I feel like
That's true.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's moments in Susan Sarandon's Louise where I feel it's a little mannered, in my opinion. People feel that way about Gina Davis too. I know. I've heard people say it. I just buy it a little bit more with Gina Davis.
Yeah.
And I feel more emotional about her character at the end. And that's by design of the movie. So I mean, it's nothing. Susan Sarandon right here in my alternates. Actually, most of the people you guys said were in my alternates. It was a tough. The one I do want to say that wasn't mentioned was Sheila Florence in A Woman's Tale. The old, like 70-year-old woman who played
that one.
It was it's like a woman playing her true life story. She was dying in real life and playing a woman who's dying.
Oh my gosh, wow.
It's crazy. But yes, everybody was great. Yeah.
Yeah, and Reese Witherspoon, you both have mentioned it. Like she came out fully formed. It sort of reminded me of I've just recently gone back and watched the first film that Saoirse Ronan was in, and it's like from the beginning you're like, oh, okay, this person is obviously a great actor and a great star right out of the gate. And Reese Witherspoon's the exact same way, where that was the first time I had seen that film, and I was like, oh, like Reese is like, she's throwing a fireball right out of the gate.
Yeah. To be honest, it was the movie that made me the saddest of the movies I rewatched, because that is the movie that's the furthest from movies we get now.
Yeah.
That movie probably cost a couple $1 million to make. That little set. It's beautiful. It's a small story about teenagers. It's a coming of age thing. There were a lot of coming of age movies this year, I noticed, but
yeah,
I missed movies like that the most watching Man in the Moon, because I've seen that movie before. I think it's really good, and again, I thought it was excellent. I considered Sam Waterston for supporting, but everybody, and Emily Warfield, like you said, she was great too. Everybody's really good in that movie, but yeah, it's a star vehicle for a young Reese Witherspoon, and they struck gold when she's perfect in that movie.
And I will say too, to toot her horn, and just because I'm the queen of fun facts, is that she actually got that role. She showed up for an open casting for extras for something else, and the casting director for Man in the Moon happened to be there. And he was like,
nice.
I want her.
That's cool.
So,
Yeah.
so it was.
I'm glad you brought fun facts, Liz, because I'm going to throw this out. I demand more Liz in a movie fun facts. I feel like we haven't gotten so many lately. I know you have a busy, busy life, but that was like one of my favorite things when I'd pop open my Instagram and I'd be like, oh man, here goes Liz giving us all these like
Fun
IMDb trivia fun facts out there. The best. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to get back into it. I keep saying like, oh, like, because I do love making those. That's like one of my favorite things about like prepping for podcasts like this is I go and I like find all the information out about the movie. Because in some ways, sometimes when you're researching it, it'll make you appreciate it in a different way or appreciate it more. Like what they were able to accomplish and how. And so yeah, I do need to start doing that again. It's fun.
Oh, I'm 100%. Anytime I'm like rewatching a movie just for like a comfort position, I'll throw up IMDb and just start scrolling through the trivia and just try to like see all the backstory, production notes, and all those things because fascinating stuff.
Very.
I am so glad though that none of us threw another woman out there to get slaughtered by Jodie Foster because it would have been a disservice probably to put anyone else up there. I don't think any of us were gonna. I would have been stunned if anyone else threw anyone else out there. Jodie Foster, automatic. You don't have to go to a vote. Silence of the Lambs. She's in.
Yay.
All right. And also, I think I'll have to fact check myself. I think Best Actress is the category that through 21 episodes there have been the most automatic entries. I think we're up to like 5 different women who have automatically got in this category.
The women just overperform. I mean, it just is what it is, you know.
Yeah, it's true. All right, let's jump over to Best Actor now. This is going to be a much different category than I thought it was going to be, knowing that Anthony Hopkins will not be in play for the two of you. All right, so the Academy's nominees and winner for 1991 were Warren Beatty for Bugsy, Robert De Niro for Cape Fear, Robin Williams for The Fisher King, Nick Nolte for The Prince of Tides, and the win went to Anthony Hopkins for The Silence of the Lambs. I will start us off again in this category. Okay, so honorable mentions. I've got Jeff Bridges as Jack Lucas as the actual lead of The Fisher King. Apologies to Robin Williams. He is not the focal point for me in that movie. Next one is Chang Chen, who plays the young boy and is the lead in A Brighter Summer Day. I didn't feel compelled to put him in my 5 because to me that movie's more than what he's doing. There's a lot of other components to it, but I felt he was at least worth mentioning in the mix. Scott, I know you've literally just watched that movie yesterday, so we'll see if you mention that anymore the rest of this episode. I've got Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison in The Doors. It's maybe a little schlocky and like too like somebody just trying to do an impression, but I do think we were at least at a point in time in 1991 where it didn't feel like every 6 months we were getting an actor playing a musician. And now I'm so far past that, but at least in 1991, I was like, okay, we weren't getting a Jim Morrison portrayal on screen every year. And so it at least stood out to me as like, oh, he's doing a good job with what he's doing with that role. And then my other honorable mention is going to go to River Phoenix as Eddie Birdlace in Dogfight. This was a great year. I didn't get to mention River Phoenix in supporting actor, but he was also in My Own Private Idaho, which is another movie I'm really, really high on. This was a great year for River Phoenix. This was that peak moment where he was like poised to be the best actor on the planet. You could see it was coming and we just never got it. And it was kind of painful and sad to go back and watch My Own Private Idaho and Dogfight and see all this like talent that was just there and starting to blossom. And we unfortunately didn't get to see any more of it. But what he does with Dogfight, if you've not seen Dogfight, I highly recommend checking that film out. It's gonna challenge you a little bit with like 2025 things versus 1991, but I do believe it has some important messaging to it, and I would highly recommend it. But as far as my actual 5, here's the guys I've got in there. So I've got John Turturro as Barton Fink, the lead character in Barton Fink. He's wonderful, much like John Goodman. He's just fit to be in a Coen Brothers movie. He nails it. I've got Cuba Gooding Jr. as Trey Styles in Boys in the Hood. I've got Kevin Costner as Jim Garrison in JFK. I've got Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs. and I've got Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator in Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
The Terminator.
You know, people want to like not give Arnold enough credit for his acting. He's actually doing something in Terminator 2.
He's pretty
that
good.
He is. Like, he has to fundamentally change what he's doing, much like Linda Hamilton. He's taking a different version of his character into the sequel. And I think it works really well. And I don't know if anyone else could really play a person. Nobody else could do that role, in my opinion. I just think he's perfectly suited for that. But I'm going to give the win to Anthony Hopkins. And here's my justification for why I left him in lead actor. Number one, I was hoping the two of you would also leave him in lead actor, so we wouldn't have him in two categories. But once you threw him in that, I was just going to leave him here. But I did a little bit of math this morning. So he's in approximately 20% of the Silence of the Lambs, which admittedly is not a ton for a lead performance. And so I thought, well, let me see who else maybe has won a lead acting or a lead actress performance that's also in a comparable amount of time. Just in 1975, a couple of months ago, I covered that year, and Louise Fletcher won for lead actress for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Not a lot of people argue the win there or the position as a lead actress. She's only in 16.96% of that movie. So I thought, okay, if she's not in more than 20% of Cuckoo's Nest and she's a lead actress, I don't have a huge problem with Anthony Hopkins being here. I do think it's very fair to say it's category fraud, it's category manipulation. I really can't argue with Scott's point that like the POV is not from his character, and the idea that if Jodie Foster was a male character, that would be the lead. You're 100% right about that. Like, that would be the only lead in that movie. So I can't argue that point, but I just thought he's already here. I don't really feel enough like strong pull to put him in supporting, so I left him here. As far as the actual performance, what can you say about this? He's so important as Hannibal Lecter that people forget that there was a version in the 80s with Brian Cox playing Hannibal Lecter, and people forget that Mads Mikkelsen played a version on television that I think personally is a more compelling version of Hannibal Lecter than we've ever seen.
I had to stop watching that show. I was like, I'm having nightmares. This is terrible.
I will stand for Hannibal the television series at every opportunity I get. Obviously, he's got a lot more time to do things over multiple seasons, but I think Mads Mikkelsen's Hannibal is as complex as Anthony Hopkins. But you can't argue Anthony Hopkins and what he does with this performance, which is larger than life. So he's going to get my win for those reasons. He's charming, he's charismatic, he's intoxicating, he's also frightening, diabolical. He covers the full gamut without getting a ton of screen time. Perfect performance right alongside Jodie. All right, Liz, let's go over to you now for your best actor.
Okay, so I have one honorable mention, and it's Bill Murray and What About Bob? Just because. And then my 5, I have Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook from Hook. I think he's fabulous, and I'm certain that he still gets people being like, "Oh, it's Captain Hook," because he looks like Captain Hook. Okay. Then I've got Steve Martin for Father of the Bride. I love that film. It's just one of those like comfort films for me. Like, if it's a rainy day, like, have some soup and watch Father of the Bride. It's just sweet and, I don't know, very relatable. And then I have Ted Levine in the lead actor category as Buffalo Bill, because like, when I think about Silence of the Lambs, yes, Hannibal is a big part of it, but it really is more about Buffalo Bill. And in my research, Ted Levine did a lot. Like, he had to fight for a lot of scenes to stay in the movie that really add to the character. Like, if you haven't, this is not a spoiler. If you haven't seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about when you do see it. But his dance, that was not originally supposed to be in the movie. He had to fight for that. And that is a huge part of the Buffalo Bill character. So I do have him here. And then my winner, I have Robin Williams as Peter Pan. I don't think Robin Williams is underrated. However, I think he's underappreciated. I think every role he does is just like a master class. And I think he deserves more credit. So I've got him as my winner.
I dig it. Hey, it's not going to be that often that you get 3 people in a room who all agree that Hook is a fun movie, because Scott and I have been trapped in an app where people just like to talk crap about that movie all the time. But
it's amazing. They just probably haven't seen it recently. You just got to watch it again.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love it.
It's
very fun.
The food fight is one of the best scenes ever.
I got to see it in a theater like 2 years ago, and it was awesome because everybody was there because they wanted to be there, and everybody was having a great time. And I was like, "This is a good movie."
Yeah, it's like when you go see Twilight these days. If it's in a theater, and you're like, "These are my people."
The mob mentality like takes over. Yeah,
yes, everyone knows every line. It's like, let's go.
Yeah. All right, chants in the crowd.
Yes.
All right, Scott. Let's see where you go with your best actor.
Okay, runners up or honorable mentions, Steve Martin in LA Story. I really liked that movie. I found it really charming, but I think the way he kind of uses his body in his comedy, it's almost like a dancer. Like he's so physical with his Father of the Bride too, but LA Story was one that stood out to me. He's great in both. Nick Nolte in Cape Fear. I thought he was great. I don't like him in Prince of Tides at all.
So let's just make that
sorry
clear.
to get very serious for a minute, but I don't like him in Prince of Tides. I got real serious. I find him over the top and annoying in Prince of Tides, but in Cape Fear, he's much more dialed down for a Nick Nolte performance, much more lower key, and it's way more convincing. I wish he'd done it more in his career. Peter Weller in Naked Lunch, a weird, crazy movie, but he's at the right pitch for it. I think he's performing about as well as you can. That monotone, just like I just think he does a really good job in it. For an actor that I wish we would have seen more of after that. Kind of went away, but okay. So my nominees. My first one is a guy named Dirk Bogarde, who is in a French movie called Daddy Nostalgia, and I watched it because it was on Siskel and Ebert's top 10 list for that year. It was on Siskel's list, I think, and I wanted to make sure I watched all the movies they put on there. It also has Jane Birkin, who's Charlotte Gainsbourg's mom, the one from La Belle, the one I nominated or mentioned from La Belle Noiseuse. Anyway, it's about she plays a woman who finds out that her father is sick and possibly dying, so she goes to like spend time with him. But it's kind of like a sweet, charming movie. But he's really great in it, playing the father. Just very natural in front of the camera, very good. Martin Donovan in Trust. I'm gonna get you guys to watch Trust. He is the lead to Adrian Shelley's. They're the two leads together, and they're just great. They have great chemistry. They're funny. It's just a very sweet movie, and the comedy really comes a lot from him. He's really funny and like kind of droll, and it's good stuff. Val Kilmer in The Doors. I don't love The Doors. I think that movie is not great, but I don't think any of it is Val Kilmer's fault. I think Val Kilmer is pretty much ready to play Jim Morrison. I mean, obviously he looks the part. He sounds the part. I don't ever question him in that role. I totally buy him as Jim Morrison. Like I wasn't ever thinking this is Val Kilmer. I thought he did as well as he could do in a flawed movie, I would say. So the two that it's between are River Phoenix in My Own Private Idaho. Just like a beautiful performance, and like personally, I really appreciate the LGBTQ representation at this time in movies, which wasn't around a lot then. The scene at the campfire where he professes his love for Keanu Reeves' character, which apparently River Phoenix wrote that scene, like on set. That's just incredible. I was talking to a friend of mine who saw it in the theater, and he said he actually heard like a woman gasp during that scene. You just can't believe that he's like the courage that it would take to say those things to another person. It's pretty staggering. And in a movie that up to that point has been kind of like crazy Shakespearean antics, that scene hits you like a truck. It's just like that movie in general is a movie I have so many conflicting feelings about that movie. It's so challenging, but I love it, but I hate it. I can't figure out how I feel about that movie. Okay, and then that's close, but my winner is going to be John Turturro and Barton Fink. Just one of the most irritating, pompous, full of himself people with that hair. But you like sympathize with him at some point. At some point you're on his side. It's like you're with him. And it's just a crazy, he's so all in and committed in that role. Like because up to that point, I think, he'd mostly been in like Spike Lee movies and stuff. I think this is his first Coen Brothers movie. I think so. But maybe a small part Miller's Crossing. I can't remember. But it's just such a like blossoming for an actor in a lead role. Like you're just like, wow, he really committed to that part. You totally buy him. And I find him really funny. And then that's sad later in the movie. It's just, I think he runs the gamut of all the emotions in that. And I really, I just find him very convincing in that part. So he's my winner.
I love the way that movie ends with him on the beach, and it's like the full circle moment and the great. Miller's Crossing came out in 1990, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
a year before.
And he's in it, but he's definitely got a small part, and it felt like the Coens had written this movie just for him. I mean, it doesn't feel like anyone else could play Barton Fink other than John Turturro. He's so perfectly neurotic for that role. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm excited to see that with you two having Anthony Hopkins over in supporting. I was wondering just how crazy we were going to get, and we got good and crazy with those nominees, so I love it. All right, so you're going to have 3 options again in this category. So Anthony Hopkins will be in the Best Actor. He'll be in Best Supporting Actor. He was my pick. He was the Academy's pick. You can side with Liz, who had Robin Williams in Hook. And then you've got Scott, who's got John Turturro and Barton Fink. Something tells me Anthony Hopkins is going to pull the double like some other people.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. So you consider Robert De Niro and Cape Fear supporting?
I do.
But you consider Anthony Hopkins lead in Silence of the Lambs?
I do.
I would say Robert De Niro has more screen time.
He does.
Okay, I just wanted to put that out there. I'm just putting that out there. Okay, I understand.
This is a personal opinion.
Sometimes it's just how I get it. Sometimes it's just how you feel. To be honest, Anthony Hopkins, I went back and forth on because before I rewatched it, I was like, that's a supporting performance. As I was watching it, I was like, wait, maybe this is lead. And then he's just gone the second half, and I was like, to me, it's just not. And then the other stuff I said, but I'm not gonna repeat myself. But yeah, sometimes it's just personal, like how you feel while you're watching it. I get it. I was just curious.
Oh yeah, it's a total vibe. It's like,
yeah.
And I know people who like are very adamant that there can't be more than one lead on like either gender side, and I don't necessarily buy into that. I think you can have a two-handed, like this is the
Kieran
perfect
Culkin.
Yes,
Kieran Culkin.
Kieran Culkin very much should have been the lead in A Real Pain.
Crazy.
But I also think, Liz, you were talking about listening to the 1999 episode of this show this week, and Seth Vargas, who was on that episode, I think made a great point where it's like we've moved past the idea of lead versus supporting, and we could just we could award just multiple people in a year and say like these are the best 3 or 4 acting performances. And so every single month, it feels like when I'm doing this, it's very arbitrary where it's like, why is that person in lead versus support or vice versa? Because everybody has a little bit different flavor to like why they put somebody there, but I have a very loose definition with it, Scott. So
yeah, no, that's fine.
It's how I feel for the day.
And to be fair, like this has been going on forever. Like I was watching the old Siskel and Ebert if we picked the winners show, and they were talking about the 1988 Oscars, and Siskel's like, why is Gina Davis in supporting actress for Accidental Tourist? Like they're clearly doing this to try to get a better shot at winning an award. And that's what it's just been going on forever. People act like it's new every year. And it's like, no, this is always happening. Always.
Yes. And it always will happen. It's always going to be there for us.
Yeah.
I have 2 more arguments.
Oh, let's do it.
For you,
Go for it.
which are their facts. They're fun facts. So the first one is a lot of the iconic performances from Anthony Hopkins are where Hannibal and Clarice are interacting together, and that only happens in 4 scenes in the whole movie. They're only seen together 4 times, which is wild because that's like a lot of what you remember from that film.
Mhm.
And then the second one is like the most quotable line from that movie. People get it wrong, but everybody gets it wrong and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is the quote from the movie," but it's not. What is that called? When
A Mandela effect?
Yes, the Mandela
The,
effect. So the quote is everyone says hello Clarice. It's not,
Yeah.
it's good evening Clarice, which is
Yeah.
crazy because it's like, okay, he's this iconic character and he is the movie and you got his most iconic line wrong. We
Yeah.
all do it. We continue to all the time.
It's right up there with Darth Vader in the Luke, I am your father, which is not the exact like verbiage that he uses
Yeah.
in that particular movie. Yeah.
And Casablanca, play it Sam, became play it again Sam somehow over time.
Like,
Yeah.
how did we do this?
Crazy.
And if you want, I'll pull back the curtain. If you want to know the real truth for why I didn't put Anthony Hopkins in supporting, it really came down to I just wanted to give Lawrence Fishburne love. I was like, at the end of the day, I just have to give Lawrence Fishburne his flowers for one episode, so I'll just leave Anthony here. That's really what it
fair.
came down
Okay,
to for
all
me.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
Truth comes out.
Yeah, that. you prodded enough that you got to the real answer. All right,
I didn't mean to do a gotcha question. Sorry.
I'm always here for a gotcha. All right, let's go to best actor or best director now. Apologies. So the best directors that were nominated in 1991 were John Singleton for Boys in the Hood, Barry Levinson for Bugsy, Oliver Stone for JFK, Ridley Scott for Thelma and Louise, and yet another win went to The Silence of the Lambs because Jonathan Demme grabbed the Oscar. A couple of notes on John Singleton. So his nomination meant he became the first African American to be nominated in the category, and he was also the youngest person nominated at the age of 23. Fascinating how young he was. I forgot he was that young when he made Boys in the Hood, but just
That's
really
impressive.
cool. Very impressive to see how mature and layered that movie is. Liz, you get to lead us off in this category.
Oh, what an honor. None of this should be surprising to anyone. If you act shocked, it's your own fault. So I don't have any honorable mentions this time. I just have my nominees. So up first, I've got Barry Sonnenfeld for The Addams Family. Oddly, this was his debut, which is kind of crazy. Debuted with what was an iconic show to turn it into a film, which is wild. That's a lot of pressure. And he did a great
shot
job.
movies for the Coens before I'm sure you know that, but
yeah,
he
cinematography.
shot,
Yeah.
Coens.
He actually had to do that for the Addams Family. They had they called it like a cursed set. They kept having people like get sick, like mysteriously ill, or just like these weird things happening, and he ended up having to step in and film the last scenes that they did, which is crazy.
It's awesome.
Then I've got Charles Shire for Father of the Bride. Like I said, love that film. I think he did a great job. Much like I think the job of a wedding planner is absolutely chaotic. I cannot imagine being the director who's trying to like channel the wedding director. It's just like chaos everywhere. Then I've got Jonathan Demme for Silence of the Lambs. And then my runner-up, they're a duo, but it's Gary Truesdale and Kirk Wise for Beauty and the Beast. Iconic film. They did a lot with that movie that was like before its time, with the iconic like music sequences, and there's a lot of decisions that they made that had they not made those decisions, it wouldn't have been the same movie. So I think they did a really good job there. And I mean, at least for me, it is like the most well-known Disney film, and Disney films are well-known. So giving some love there. And then my winner, and this shouldn't be a surprise, I've got Steven Spielberg for Hook. And notoriously, this is his least favorite movie. And nobody recognizes him for this film. It was kind of seen as like a little bit of a dumpster fire. But I think it's a really well-made film. It captures like childhood imagination really well. And it's got a really good cast. And I can only imagine that group of little boys trying to wrangle them and get them to not behave like they're supposed to. That could not have been easy. So anyways, that's my winner.
I hate that he doesn't like that movie.
I know.
I
It
know.
really bothers me.
Yeah, it's like
It's sad.
just enjoy all the stuff you make. Like,
Yeah.
It's
You
just
cut yourself
art.
some slack. Yeah, cut yourself slack. Yeah.
There are people that love it, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
what's crazy is, so I've been doing like this Raiders of the Lost Ark collaboration project over the summer, and I've had a bunch of people participate in it, and I've asked all of them, what's your Steven Spielberg Mount Rushmore? And Hook has come up significantly more than I thought it would in people's 4 favorite Spielbergs. Like, I feel like there's a certain age group that if you were born at a certain period of time, it's one of your favorite Spielbergs.
Mhm.
And I kind of feel like that's the way it works for him, for everybody. Like, depending on what age you are, you have your own little Spielberg period. Because for a lot of people, I can't remember who I heard say this, but for a lot of people, he's the first director that you know by name. Like, when you're a child, he's the first one you're like, oh, that's the director of a movie. My kids, I feel like, even know Steven Spielberg at 7 and 5 now. Like, so I think a lot of people enjoy Hook, and this will be the 4th time now, I believe, that Spielberg will be in a vote for the show. So we'll see if Steven Spielberg keeps his successful streak running. I think he's 3-0 right now. He's won every vote he's been at so far.
Y'all gotta pull through on this one.
All right, Scott, it's over to you now for your director.
Okay, my nominees are James Cameron for Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Joel Coen for Barton Fink. Should be the Coen brothers, but the Directors Guild has weird rules about that, so it can only be Joel. Jonathan Demme for The Silence of the Lambs, Gary Trousdale and Kirk Wise for Beauty and the Beast,
Yay.
and John Singleton for Boys in the Hood. Yeah, like you said, pretty impressive. Just impressive that for a 23-year-old to make a first movie that's that confident and just well made. Technically, it's just, yeah, it's pretty amazing. That movie kind of just jumps off the screen. I really enjoyed my rewatch of that. It was just really impressive. These are tough. My winner is Jonathan Demme for Silence of the Lambs, and I would say it's just a triumph of tone more than anything else. That movie has become, that movie is so influential. Over time, it's become, that's all television is now, is that. Is it true crime? You know what I mean? Like, that is, this movie you can pretty much trace all the true crime stuff back to all the thrillers, all that stuff back to this movie. And when you watch it, you're kind of surprised that it's not more over the top than it is. It's kind of, there's a lot of low keyness to it. A lot of thoughtfulness. Like I said, the stuff about John Demme purposely laid that stuff in there about the relationship between Clarice and the men she's worked with and the way she's seen by men, and her relationship to them. The way, I already talked about it, but I love the way he has them just look at the camera and talk to the camera. There's something about that makes you so uncomfortable in your seat, but it's kind of beautiful at the same time. It's just, I don't know, it's a really cool way to have them communicate. There's a part when he's in that weird cage, like in the middle of that gym or whatever, and it has close-ups of the both of them. Like, he's asking her questions, she's answering, and the camera keeps getting closer and closer. And eventually you get to where all you see is just his face. And then when you see her face, she's got the bars in front of her face. It's a cool trick, like visual trick. I just think Jonathan Demme is, I love a lot of his movies, like Something Wild, Rachel Getting Married. I think he's one of the best directors ever. I think this is probably his best movie. And yeah, I think I got to give him the Oscar in this case.
Okay, well, you were dancing around a question I had for you, which is, in our little Discord group that we have with some other friends, you had mentioned, we were talking about Rachel Getting Married, I think last week, and you had said, is that actually Jonathan Demme's best film or his best directorial achievement? And I thought, I'm going to make a little note of that. So would you say Rachel Getting Married or Silence of the Lambs is the greater Demme achievement for you, Scott?
That was before I rewatched. I think Rachel Getting Married is a masterpiece. Like, it was on when everybody on Twitter was doing their top 10 movies of this century. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was on that. I think it's nearly a perfect movie. Talk about wrangling a house for a huge wedding, like Charles Shire did. I can't imagine how hard that is. Like you were saying, and that's what he does in Rachel Getting Married. But yeah, I think Silence of the Lambs is probably the better movie. I would give him, Silence of the Lambs is the best.
Okay, you made the right choice.
I take it back. I take it back.
I thought that was a hot take. I'm gonna have to circle that one for sure.
But you know what? Something Wild is right there too. He's got a lot of good movies. So
yes, he does.
Gotta watch out. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see where I go with this one, and then we'll have some options for you. Okay, so honorable mentions. I've got a few. Gus Van Sant for My Own Private Idaho. Probably my favorite Gus Van Sant movie. If I had to pick one, probably. I love Good Will Hunting, but it's not really like I don't know. Gus is a weird director because it doesn't feel like he has a particular style or sensibility. Like it feels like he can kind of do different things. Like he's almost like a director for hire. I know he's not, but it doesn't feel like he's really got a viewpoint all the time. At least not in his later career. Maybe his earlier stuff. And this, I just like My Own Private Idaho a lot, and I think he does a really nice job making me interested in Shakespeare, which is not my thing. And so I enjoy that. Joel Cohen for Barton Fink. The Coen brothers have such a distinct viewpoint. If you want to talk about the opposite end of Van Sant, when you watch a Coen brothers film, you know it immediately. And Barton Fink, right alongside, like we're in this early period with Raising Arizona and Miller's Crossing and Barton Fink, and you can see they're about to like really have their finger on what they want to do with their language of cinema. Like they're figuring it out in real time very quickly. And this movie, this might be the one that's the tipping point for them, where it's like, okay, this is their sensibility here going forward. And they turned the corner at Barton Fink on for me. And then we haven't mentioned the movie at all. We haven't talked about the guy, Richard Linklater for Slacker. It's hard. It was hard for me to like even consider it for any of the categories because it's just a bunch of clips of people like randomly, like no character has any real screen time and it's just bouncing from person to person and it's really all over the place. But from a directing standpoint, I think it's a fascinating piece of work. And obviously from like an independent cinema standpoint, it's hugely influential. And going back to Slacker this time, I thought, wow, like this guy at a very young age understood what he was doing and just really captured like the essence of that area in Texas. And all of his movies are kind of rooted in like his Texas upbringing, but that movie is very, very Linklater. But as far as my 5 nominees, here are the people I have in my nominees. First up, I've got John Singleton for Boyz n the Hood. 23 is just an astonishing age to make Boyz n the Hood, and I've sung Boyz n the Hood's praise already. I think it's one of my favorite movies of the 90s, and I'm just so happy I got to revisit it for this episode and just kind of dig into it. Next nominee is going to go to Edward Yang for A Brighter Summer Day. That movie, it's too long. Scott, I don't know if you agree with me. I know you just literally watched it yesterday. It's too long for me, and it's all over the place, but Yang does some really interesting things with the camera and with what he's telling there, and so I thought I at least had to put him in the conversation for my 5. I've got Oliver Stone for JFK. I've got Jonathan Demme for Silence of the Lambs, and then I've got James Cameron for Terminator 2 Judgment Day. This was a 3-headed race for me. It came down to Demme, Stone, and Cameron. I'm going to give my win, and this is a little controversial, I'm even wrestling with it myself. I'm going to give my win to Oliver Stone for JFK. And I know that JFK is kind of a problematic movie nowadays because it's not really dealing in fact as we now see it and as we now understand the JFK assassination. But I think that just looking at Oppenheimer a couple of years ago, it's obvious to see how influential JFK was on Christopher Nolan. And what I'm always fascinated when I go back to JFK, which is one of my favorite movies of this time period, is he can take a 3-hour movie where it's just people talking in rooms for all 3 hours, and it feels like this high stakes thriller where it feels like there's real stakes at every given moment. It kind of is edited and paced like an action movie, except it's just people in courtrooms and people in interrogation rooms. And I love the pace of it. And on the flip side, though, it's so influential that it has opened this door for this like huge contingent of conspiracy theorists out there. And I feel like it's all kind of traced back to this movie to a large degree. And so there's like this kind of double-edged sword to what Oliver Stone did with this movie, but I do think it is a very important directorial achievement to do what he did with the text of that movie. And so that's why he's going to get my win over Cameron, who changed action movies with Terminator 2, and over Demi for everything you said. I had to give JFK and Oliver Stone my win.
Yeah, I think it's weird that people go to an Oliver Stone movie expecting to find a documentary. Like, you know what I mean? They treat like, this isn't all fact. It's like, it's an Oliver Stone movie. I mean, like, yeah, it's highly like his interpretation of stuff. I mean, he throws everything at the wall in JFK. Every single possible theory you could have. Like, it all can't make sense. So that's the point, I think, is that he's just trying to start the conversation. And that movie, I really like that movie. The fourth wall break really upsets me, but I like that movie a lot. Yeah, I think it's a good pick. I mean, I think he's a really interesting director. I've liked a lot of his movies. I haven't liked others, but he's never boring.
That's true. I was literally going to flip a coin this morning between Cameron and him because I was so close to giving James Cameron the win. And I'm sure at some point James Cameron's going to get a win for me for one of his monumental achievements, whether it's Titanic next season or when I get to the Terminator in 1984. But we've got 3 options again in this category. Scott, you look like you got something to say real quick.
I was going to say that it was between Cameron and Demi for me. And I don't know if subconsciously I picked Demi because this is the only Oscar he won. And part of my brain knows that Cameron has time coming up. Yes. I don't know. But I think that, well, we'll get into it when we get into the picture. So I'm good. Yeah.
And honestly, again, you're prodding enough to get the facts out of me. Part of my writing down Oliver Stone for JFK was I thought that you were going to pick Cameron for T2, and I was like, okay, I give myself a little bit of a safety net. So, and then you veered to Demi, and I was like, well, I'm stuck at this point. Yeah,
that's fun.
All right, so you can side with both Scott and the Academy, who have Jonathan Demme for Silence of the Lambs. You can side with Liz, who has Steven Spielberg making another appearance in the Best Director vote with Hook. And then I've got Oliver Stone for JFK.
Hello, hello. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan. And Movies and Us is a weekly gathering place filled with conversations about movies, stories, and connection.
Our name, Movies and Us, sums it up. We're all about movies and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This film podcast is all about us and our shared stories.
And so we invite you to join us in conversations about movies and the stories that connect us. So you can follow Movies and Us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube at Movies and Us.
All right, we're going to get over to Best Picture now, the big one. So here are the 5 films that the Academy nominated in 1991. Those 5 films being Beauty and the Beast, Bugsy, JFK, The Prince of Tides, and The Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs, of course, earning the win. Now, Beauty and the Beast also became the very first animated film ever to be nominated for this top prize. Since that time, Toy Story 3 and Up have also both been nominated in the category. Of course, the category has been expanded to 10 now as opposed to 5. However, because the Academy nominated 5 films in 91, we're going to adhere to those rules. We only have 5 movies that we can nominate for Best Picture here. Scott, I'm going to let you kick things off this time.
Okay. Do we do runners or
sure
honorable mentions? Okay. Honorable mentions for me. An Angel at My Table, Jane Campion. A really great biopic about the one thing that I like the most about that movie is the way the 3 actresses who play her all are believable as the same person. It's like the Moonlight effect where you believe, and I don't think they had much to do with each other's performance. Like they weren't spending time together. It's like really great directing and acting. They put it all together, and that feels like a single person. Culminating in the Carrie Fox, which is I nominated her. So, Life is Sweet by Mike Leigh. I love Mike Leigh. I'd never seen Life is Sweet. It was as great as I thought it was going to be because I always love him. I love the way he works with actors and they improv. the scenes, it always feels real and like a real family and like real life. And that movie is a good example of that. Paris is Burning this was a good year for documentaries in general. I really liked Hearts of Darkness and but Paris is Burning, again, appreciate the LGBTQ stuff for this time period. The late 80s drag scene in New York. It's a beautiful movie. It's heartbreaking. I could watch it every day. I think it's great and very entertaining. People don't realize that how the origins of things we say everyday parlance, like reading people and shade, comes from this time period. So it's, you can learn about that kind of stuff if you watch it.
Not to cut you off, Scott. I apologize, but so I just learned Paris is Burning has a sequel documentary. Is that correct? That there's like a follow-up to it, or maybe like a spiritual successor?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I didn't know that. Maybe there might be.
I think I just saw that like 10 years later, they made sort of a sequel to the film. And I kind of made note of that. I'm like, oh, I need to dig into that more because this movie really captured my attention. I didn't know if you were familiar.
I just got the Criterion at the half off sale at Barnes & Noble. It seems like the kind of thing that I haven't looked that carefully at it. It might be. It looks like the kind of thing they might include on that. So
you'll have to let me know.
Check it out and see. Yeah. Okay, so Boyz in the Hood was a hard one not to include in the 5. It was probably like my 6th place. But it's a great movie, and like we said, trivially directed, great acting, very natural. Also heartbreaking, and for the most part of it plays just like an everyday, like plays like just very low key and like everything's just moving along, and then finally when it escalates, it gets like very intense and hard to watch at times and very upsetting. But it's a movie with something to say, and I appreciate that. Okay, Best Picture nominees: Barton Fink, one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies. I love that movie. I love the turn it takes later in the movie into like surrealism. I think it's such a well written and directed. It's just you can tell that it wasn't messed with at all. It's like that's their vision and they made it. They didn't compromise with that movie, and I like that. I admire that. Beauty and the Beast. Okay, let me do this a different way. Trust. I'm going to say Trust. Hal Hartley's Trust. A movie I've mentioned several times. I love it. Please watch it if you haven't seen it. It's great. It's very important to me too because independent film was a big part of my life. Discovering movies in the 90s, like those were the movies I would find at like Hollywood Video and start watching and get into. But Hal Hartley was kind of on the front of that movement, but I didn't find him till later. And I really appreciate just, it's such a 90s kind of vibe, early 90s vibe, and it's great. Okay, so the 3 I have left are, the tricky part is I have the best animated movie I've ever seen. I have the best action movie I've ever seen. And I have the best thriller I've ever seen. So, Beauty and the Beast is the best animated movie I've ever seen. Terminator 2, best action movie. Silence of the Lambs, best thriller. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to go with my heart, and I'm going to say Beauty and the Beast.
Yay!
Nice.
And here's why. I think the 2 best animated movies I've seen are Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. Obviously, they were 2 years apart. I think that was where the Disney animated musicals, I would say the magic about them, if I'm trying to look for something, I would say they hit the jackpot with a female protagonist who aspires for more in her life than what she's got in front of her. You know, you think about Ariel, you think about Belle. They want more out of life. And then the music, the Ashman and Menken music is just unimpeachable. It's like the best music you'll find in not even animated movies, most musicals. But Beauty and the Beast, it has actual Broadway magic in it. And I think a lot of that has to do with Angela Lansbury, who I should have nominated. But I didn't to be honest, I didn't think about nominating the animated stuff, and I should have, because that's a good, she's perfect in it. But yeah, her voice really lends a haunting quality to that movie and those songs. It's an 80-minute movie that puts you through the ringer emotionally, and by the end I'm crying. And I think I want to give it the win because this was the first animated movie to get a nomination for Best Picture, and then it feels like they kind of put animated movies in their own box and just didn't. It felt like they still aren't really taking that seriously. So I think it deserved to win. I think it's the best movie of that year. I think it is.
You genuinely surprised me in the best possible way with that pick. That was awesome. Right. And you just made my job a whole lot easier. Oh, so thank you. I'm going to go next, and we're going to let Liz close us out in the Best Picture. Okay, so here's a few honorable mentions in a long list of really great movies this year. My fun pick, if I was trying to like squeeze a movie in there that I just go to most frequently, if there's probably a movie I watched from 1991 more than anything else, it's Point Break. That's just like Point Break is just so ingrained in my being as a movie fan. I love that thing, and so I go back to it often. It's not in Best Picture quality for me, but it's a really great movie. My Own Private Idaho, a movie I wanted to get in there. I don't know, kind of like Scott. I don't know. I have conflicted feelings about it. Like I genuinely love the characters. You can tell that Keanu and River were deep friends in real life. Like you can see their friendship on screen. But I don't know. There's kind of like this weird disconnect that I don't fully vibe with the story all the time. But I do always find myself wanting to go back to it. It's the very first Criterion film I ever purchased years ago, and I'm really proud of that fact because it's just a movie I really love going back to. And then Dogfight. If you haven't seen Dogfight, please check out Dogfight. It's not the movie you think it's going to be. If you read the synopsis, it's going to confuse you. It's a really heartfelt story, and the last image of that movie has stuck with me for months now. It's just, I don't know. It's really endearing to me, and I'm literally giving you two River Phoenix movies to watch from 1991. He's the best actor of like a total body of work that year. I think if you want to see somebody, check out River Phoenix, check out Idaho, check out Dogfight. But as far as the actual five, I've got Beauty and the Beast, just like Scott. I've got JFK. I've got The Silence of the Lambs. I've got Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And I screwed up my alphabet, but I also have Boyz n the Hood in there. So those are my five. When it comes to the win, it came down to three, just like Scott. It was Beauty and the Beast. It was T2. It was Silence of the Lambs. And I thought, I don't know where I'm going to go with this. I was hoping Scott didn't put me in a position where I would have to go one way. So I'm gonna go Terminator 2, just for representation of that year, because we already got Beauty and the Beast on the board. We got Silence of the Lambs on the board. So I'm gonna take Terminator 2. It's a perfect action movie. It's a perfect science fiction movie. It's sort of set James Cameron on the trajectory for where he goes with being now like the biggest box office draw in movie making. I'm not a huge Avatar fan, but it's undeniable that like a James Cameron movie will just go and make $1 billion at the box office every single time. And Terminator 2 set the stage for that. And it's again representative of that year having a really strong female, powerful, badass presence at the forefront of it. Linda Hamilton is an iconic character for what she does in Terminator 2. So that's going to get my win. All right. Liz, over to you to finish it off.
All right. So I've got a couple. I have a few honorable mentions, and they're all nostalgia reasons. So first on the list, I've got Robin Hood. Personally, I enjoy the animated Robin Hood more, but the Robin Hood story is just, it's iconic. It's nostalgic. Everybody knows the Robin Hood story. So I had to include that one in my honorable mentions. I've also got The Addams Family, kind of for the same reason. I've got Ernest Scared Stupid because that was just one that was always on. My dad's a goofy guy. He was always watching Beavis and Butthead, and just we always had silly things on like that. And then the last one I have is The Princess and the Goblin, which is kind of a forgotten film. I have a younger brother, and my parents were always trying to find films that we would both enjoy. And so we watched a lot of these that are the princess movies, but there's like action in them, and there's just all kinds of interesting things in this one. I wouldn't say it's like a great film, but it definitely is fun for children. So love that. And then for my actual nominees, I had a hard time because these 5, I really do love all of these movies, and so I had a hard time picking just one. But here we are, so we're gonna do it. I've got Father of the Bride, I've got Silence of the Lambs, I've got The Man in the Moon for all of the reasons that we've talked about already. And then the last 2, it's probably going to be, well, I can't say it's surprising because these 2 have been in almost every category so far, but I've got Hook and Beauty and the Beast, and it was tough, but I think I'm picking Beauty and the Beast, just because it's the classic Disney movie, and it definitely deserved the win this year. The fact that it was even nominated probably says that it should have won, and they were just scared to let it win. So yeah.
They said the nomination is the award.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I feel pretty confident that we have the right 3 movies that deserve to be like battling each other for supremacy of what's like the defining movie of 1991. But really quickly, Liz, I take back what I said about Point Break being the movie I go back to most frequently. It is indeed Ernest Scared Stupid.
Yes.
This is an Ernest house. This will forever be an Ernest house. My kids have inherited my love of Jim Varney and all things Ernest. Like we watch them all the time. So I'm glad that you're an Ernest head too, like I am.
Yep.
And are you an Ernest fan, Scott?
Oh, I have a lot to say about Ernest.
Oh, please do.
Jim Varney is from Nashville. I'm from Nashville, specifically North Nashville. Ernest started as a character he did on the Purity Milk commercials here. So when we were in elementary school, we went to the Purity Milk factory and they showed us Ernest commercials. Then this is after the movies had started, but I love Ernest Saves Christmas. But one thing about Ernest Scared Stupid is I was young when I tried to go see it in the theater. So I went in with my dad and he had to take me out because I got scared in the movie.
Because of the troll.
Because of the troll. Maybe even Eartha Kitt. I don't know. I was scared. But the last thing I'll say is that I met him like 4 times when I was young because he would always be out and about in North Nashville. So I ran into him a lot and he was very, very nice and would stop and like sign something and be really nice every time. So yeah.
That's really
I remember
cool.
one time in particular, he walked into like a Walgreens and I was there and I was about to run up to him and he was just like, he's like,
don't cause a scene.
Yeah, pretend like you don't see me. But I remember him being really, really nice. So
would he like draw crowds of people like in just?
Probably not. I mean, people. I wonder if I'd be like, it's Ernest, if everybody would have like swarmed him. But
Beatlemania. And
yeah, I would say the times I saw him, I felt like he was getting through life fairly undetected. But yeah, he was very nice, and yeah.
I also love,
I like Ernest stuff too. So
I love that he and Robin Williams were best friends, and there's like they do feel like 2 sides of the same coin. Just one obviously like went off and did much greater in terms of like superstardom, but you know you can see them kind of being in the same mold. And yeah, I love Jim Varney. And
Ernest Scared Stupid was filmed here, by the way, too. It was filmed in Nashville, so that's kind of cool trivia.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Also, it's worth noting that we're past the 2-hour mark, and we finally had our first Robin Hood mention. And I know that there are people, Scott and I know people who love Robin Hood, and they're going to be mad that we have waited 2 hours for Robin Hood to finally get mentioned, or the fact that we haven't nominated Robin Hood for anything. I like Robin Hood, but the accents in that movie are atrocious.
There's just nothing standout about it. It's a good movie. It's fun to watch. I'll watch it again, but
it needs Alan Rickman in it for like an extra hour. He's just like he should be the movie. We don't need Morgan Freeman that much. We don't need Christian Slater in the movie as much. We just need Alan Rickman start to finish.
Yeah. I had never seen it. I think it would have helped if I'd seen it when I was young.
Okay.
Revisiting it. for this to be the first time watching it at this age,
Not the right age.
I just wasn't right for me. I'm not. It was okay. Yeah.
The animated one is better. I already said
Oh,
it.
The animated one is
miles
I like
better.
the animated one. Well, now I understand most of the jokes in Men in Tights, by the way.
Right.
For some reason I saw that, but not Prince of Thieves. But
I just remember seeing Prince of Thieves right when it came out on VHS. Like my parents watched it, and that Bryan Adams song was everywhere in like 91, 92. Yeah.
And the video that had the clips from the movie.
Yes.
I miss videos that used to have the clips from the movies in them.
I just miss music videos. I was telling.
Well, yeah.
I mean, like, what happened to music videos? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like little short films now.
Yes.
And you learn from those videos what movies that you didn't know that they came from. Like, for example, on MTV Classic the other day, Teenage Dirtbag came on. And I had no idea that that was from the movie Loser, the Amy Heckerling movie with Jason Biggs. But they're in the video, and that's from that movie. And I would have never known that. I would have never remembered that.
The thing I miss most, and this will tie directly into what Liz does, where she's always dropping facts. My favorite thing ever with music videos was pop-up video. I don't know if either of you remember pop-up video.
Oh yeah.
But, it would just be blurbs of all these like movie or music video trivia constantly.
You would have loved that if you haven't seen it. It's like having IMDb trivia facts pop up while you're watching the movie. This is like during the video. Even like stuff in the video, they'd be like, "This is not his hand."
Yeah.
They'd point to like,
By
you
the
know
way.
what I mean? Like, yeah, it was really cool. I like pop-up.
It's like TikTok, but before
Yes,
TikTok.
yeah.
All right, well, we've got 3 options when you get to the Best Picture vote, and these are 3 heavyweight options. Whichever one wins deserves its place as the best film of 1991. You can side with Scott and Liz, who are together with Beauty and the Beast. You can go with my pick. I've got Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and then the Academy has The Silence of the Lambs. All right, well, before we wrap things up, I do want to remind everybody I'll be taking time to answer all the 1991 listener questions submitted in a special mailbag episode. It'll go up a week after this goes up. There's a good chance Liz and Scott will also be participating. I'm not going to hold them to it, but you might hear their voices answering all of your wonderful questions. Again, I always appreciate you submitting those questions. They are wonderful and always fun to dive into. That is going to do it for the recording, though. But again, this is just the beginning. We've got our picks locked, and it's going to be up to you, the fans, to decide what goes into the Almanac as the true winners. I'll be putting up social media polls across 5 platforms in the coming days, and I need your votes to determine what will win. Again, the more places you follow the page, the more opportunities you have to vote for the things that you want to be the winner. Now, this episode will go up on Friday, September 5th. I'm going to let you both plug anything you got coming up. So I'm going to start with you, Liz. I know that you're always traveling all the time. You're like this world traveler now. I always like seeing where you're at in the world. Do you have any plans for Liz in a movie to kind of kickstart back up? I think you had mentioned to me kind of quietly that maybe you and Courtney were kicking something up. So for people who aren't familiar, how I got introduced to Liz was she used to run a podcast with her friend Courtney, and you were maybe the first like video podcast that I really found that I was like, oh wow, these two are doing something so cool and so different out there. And like right as I was becoming like a super fan of your show, you guys stopped doing it, and I was like, oh no, like this is my favorite show. But do you have anything in the works? Are you like wanting to get back into more podcasting? Do you have any guest spots? What's the future have for Liz and Liz in a movie?
Yeah, definitely wanting to get back into podcasting. I've been throwing some ideas around with my friends. Nothing set in stone just yet, but definitely looking into that. I will be getting more active with Liz in a movie. I took a little bit of a break just because life got crazy. But I will be doing that. And then I also have my personal account that's like a little bit of a like travel blog type thing called This Little Liz, that you're welcome to follow if you'd like to, or not, whatever, totally cool. But also the podcast I used to do was very unique. We both came to the conclusion pretty quickly that we have horrible taste in movies. And so just talked about those movies and why we loved them, kind of thing. And all of those episodes are archived on YouTube. It's at Liz in a Movie. So if you want to check them out, feel free.
I would highly recommend checking them out. They're really breezy. They're all like under an hour, and they're just like nice, fun conversation between two people who are clearly very close friends. Like you have a great dynamic with Courtney. You guys were a lot of fun to listen to. You also have some guest spots out there with some mutual friend of ours over at the Movie Podium, right? You've done a couple of spots with them.
Yeah, we did a couple. I'm trying to think what all ones we've done. But we've done a couple. We've done some of your collabs. And then we had a really fun guest. Well, two guests. We had the Raiders of the Lost podcast guys on, which was super fun because we've followed them for a long time. And I just kind of slid into their DMs and I was like, hey, you guys want to be on a podcast? And they were like, sure, whatever. So that was fun. It's a good episode. It's a Harry Potter episode. So
yeah, and if you want to hear Liz and Courtney more recently, they were so kind and helped out earlier in the spring for this show. They did part of the Women's History Month collaboration where I got a whole bunch of women to talk about all like the female directors and the producers and the actors and the writers that they were passionate about. And you dragged Courtney back into the podcasting realm for a little bit. And that was a lot of fun to have you. And I appreciate you for doing that.
Yep. It was very fun. We're happy to do it. And we love the show. So anytime.
All right, Scott, what do you got cooking up these days? Any guest spots or anything exciting on the way?
Not really. I've been, like being a guest on Friends podcast a little bit. Like I've done 2 episodes of Greatest Movie of All Time. And I think I'm doing a 3rd one, and they've all been 70s movies, so I'm just going to help them cover the 70s. I did Nashville and Chinatown. I think I'm going to do Klute.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Yeah. So all 70s stuff. And then my friend, or Nick Scheist has Bad Movies We Love podcast, and I've been on his show like 6 times. Like I keep going back to talk about movies from 1994 specifically. Because like for some reason those are the movies I always pick. But like I just was on with my friend Amber doing Anaconda. So so that's, I would say, we did I did a Christmas episode about Untamed Heart, if you remember that movie with Christian Slater, where he maybe or maybe does not have a baboon heart. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm, Twitter and Instagram, it's at Cole, Scott, all spelled out, Cole, Scott. And then I'm in Letterboxd. I should be there, the same handle there, but I'm not. It's SS Cole 929 on Letterboxd. So.
Let's get Scott on more podcasts. If you're a podcast host out there listening right now, he loves talking movies. Trust me, if you follow him on Twitter, he loves talking about them. We're going to get Scott on some more podcasts because I love listening to you talk. And I was very, very honored to have you here for a couple hours. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I've had fun.
All right. And look out for the upcoming 10th episode of this season in October next month, where I'm going to be joined by 2 returning guests from season 1. Those being Tom and Dana Duncan over at the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast. They're back. They haven't been here all season, but we got a lot of them last season. We are going to be talking 1980s movies, and only the second time. This is only a cat has appeared.
A cat appeared, yeah.
This is my cat Pickles. Jeez. I don't know.
She's joined the party.
She's saying, I wanted Silence of the Lambs to win.
Yes.
But yes, I'll be popping back into the 1980s. Only the second time I've jumped into the 80s for the show. We're going to be in 1982, so we're talking E.T., The Verdict, Blade Runner, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Sophie's Choice, The Thing, lots of other movies. Of course, Richard Attenborough's Gandhi won Best Picture that year, so we'll see if we are in line with Gandhi. You can find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, Letterboxd, Threads, TikTok, all at the handle Rev Almanac. There's going to be timestamps on this, so you can pop back anytime to check out a certain part if you want to listen and prepare as you cast your vote. And I will, of course, have everything that Liz and Scott are doing with their social media in the description to this, so you can definitely find them. This was my pleasure having both of them on. This has been in the works for like a year now. We've had this plan, and so it's been nice to finally unpack all of this stuff that we've been waiting to talk about. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Andrew, and I say to you, vaya con Dios.